Good afternoon. The Senate Finance Committee is now in session. If everyone could get seated, we'll close the doors. Okay. I'd like to start by acknowledging some of our pages who are here today. Would you stand and just tell us in each case what your name is and what school and county you're from?
And if you've been behaving yourself.
Okay.
My name is Luis Apodero. I'm from Charles County and I go to Northland High School and I have been behaving myself. High school? I'm North Point High School.
I'm Robert Sewell. I'm from Calvert High School in Calvert County, and I promise I have been behaving myself.
Okay.
I'm Sarah Hulskamp. I'm from Garrett County and I go to Northern Garrett High School.
I'm Grace Obaker. I'm from Allegheny County and I go to Mountain Ridge High School.
We applaud your being here. Okay. All right, we're going to get started now with our first bill. And just to indicate what our arrangements are, we've got a lot of work to do today. I'm not sure we'll get to it all. About 8 bills to hear and about 21 pieces of legislation to vote on later. And we have a second session on the floor of the Senate at 6 p.m. So we'll see how well we can do. We're going to start with Senator Hester, Senate Bill 753, and we'll call up now her panel, Donna Brzezinski, Anna Winshik, and Laura Nelson. Senator Hester, sponsors have as much time as you need to lay out the parameters of your bill, but in light of our crunch of time, we'll ask you to try. And each witness will have 2 minutes each. All right, we'll get started.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Finance Committee. I appreciate your consideration of Senate Bill 753, the Cyber Workforce Accelerator Act of 2022. Components of this bill may seem familiar because we tried it in similar form last year, but we've done a lot of work over it in the interim. Last year was Senate Bill 902. As you all know, Maryland leads the nation when it comes to cybersecurity innovation. We have the National Security Agency, the Department of Defense, Cyber Crime Center, Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab, and many more. However, we still have 21,000 open cybersecurity jobs in the field. And we also now have a growing pool of available workers to fill the needs of this industry. So Senate Bill 753 achieves the goal of meeting these workforce demands by leveraging the University of Maryland, Baltimore's experience in this space to simultaneously take a look at all of our existing state programs and refine them to make sure they're meeting the needs of industry. It also develops a few new programs to fill our gaps. So the programs include, first, the Maryland Employment Advancement Right Now EARN program, which is already in the governor's budget. The Cyber Warrior Diversity Program, which also received a bump in the governor's budget. We'll also be establishing a talent pipeline management program for cybersecurity, which really looks at real-time needs of industry data and compares it to the certificate programs and the degree programs that we have. We also expand the current Maryland Technology Internship Program, and we establish a K-12 teacher externship program with funding that the Department of Commerce is already working on. So we're trying to tie a bunch of these programs together and more specifically tailor them for workforce needs. We also established a new fund called the Cyber Workforce Acceleration Fund, which is supposed to be an innovative program to provide grants for education for any of the previous programs that don't address a specific need that's identified by the industry. There will be 3 amendments that we're nearly finished with. The first one clarifies the bill's intent and makes some slight wording changes. The second one provides a funding change, and this is carefully negotiated with budget and tax, so it brings down the fiscal note. And the third one will be offered by my good friend Antonio Hayes to help make the Cyber Warrior Diversity Program more effective. I would love to have your adoption of the favorable committee report and to move it forward for voting as soon as committedly possible. So with that, I'll turn it over to my panel. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. We'll start with Donna Brzezinski.
Chair Kelly,
Vice Chair Feldman. and
Pull
mem-
that mic a little closer and turn it around. Yes, they are movable.
Okay. There. Chair Kelly, Vice Chair Feldman, and members of this committee, I appreciate the opportunity to provide testimony on behalf of UMBC for Senate Bill 753. And I would also like to thank Senator Hester for bringing this bill to being. UMBC is well-known for innovation and inclusive excellence in cybersecurity education, research, entrepreneurship, and workforce development. UMBC's role in the state's cybersecurity ecosystem includes supporting cybersecurity workforce training and apprenticeships through our UMBC training centers and launching innovative programming at its research and technology park to create the greatest concentration of cybersecurity companies in the nation. UMBC is also a leader in cybersecurity education for the manufacturing sector, having developed the cybersecurity for operational technology curriculum for upskilling manufacturers, workers for new roles in cybersecurity, and through apprenticeship program we're developing with the Maryland Manufacturing Extension Partnership. UMBC's Center for Cybersecurity provides interdisciplinary academic research, leadership, innovation, and partnership and outreach. And we're the #1 provider of technology talent to the National Security Agency, and we'll continue to fill our mission in education, producing future technical leaders and developing cybersecurity workforce for the region. The state has tapped UMBC to host several workforce development initiatives, and this bill would help bring them to scale. They include the Maryland Institute for Innovative Computing, the Maryland Technology Internship Program, and Maryland Center for Computing Education. These initiatives are detailed in my written testimony, and SB 753 would build on already established university, government, and industry partnerships to achieve greater efficiency and effectiveness. We urge your support to the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Senator Hayes.
Thank you for your testimony. UMBC has done an extraordinary job. My question is, are the programs that you highlighted, the workforce programs, are they exclusive of UMB students? It sounds like they're available to a broader range than just UMBC
Yes,
students.
they're available to a broader range. As an example, the internship technology program involves all of the University of Maryland system universities. So we're very inclusive in that way.
Okay, thank you. Let's go next to Annie Weinschek.
You got it, Annie Weinshank. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Madam Chairperson and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in favor of SB 753. I want to also thank Senator Hester for putting this important bill forward and working so hard on this legislation. My name is Annie Weinshank, and I have the privilege of administering the Maryland Technology Internship Program on behalf of the state of Maryland. MTIP provides financial reimbursement in the form of matching funds to employers across the state of Maryland to increase the number of paid technical internships in Maryland. SB 753 would allocate increased funding to support paid technical internships in the realm of cybersecurity, AI, machine learning, data science, and more. Over the last 3 years, MTIP has supported nearly 800 interns at 350 organizations across the region. And I should add that those students come from all 2-year and 4-year private and public institutions in Maryland. So whether it's Morgan State, Frederick Community College, we include everyone. MTIP runs lean and efficiently, providing $270,000 back to employers in matching funds each year. Cybersecurity organizations make up 40% of the participating organizations. SB 753 will increase students' exposure to careers, employers, systems, networks, and more that are rooted in Maryland, which help retain the student talent for in-state careers. You may be asking yourselves, why would we fund internships at tech companies? And why can't they have the financial support to do so? I would argue that small businesses, startups, and state and local agencies do not have the resources necessary to support internships compared to large-scale tech companies. They also lack the brand name recognition that some have. Increased MTIP funding will offset the growing workforce gaps and diversity and inclusion efforts that this state has put forward. The Cybersecurity Workforce Accelerator would provide an infusion of resources to impactful training programs and will help remove barriers to build a skilled and diverse cybersecurity talent pipeline. I urge you to vote favorably. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Interns, I think you ought to be listening carefully. Okay, Laura Nelson.
Going fast.
What is your name?
My name is Brent B. Miller.
Okay, maybe Laura Nelson isn't here. All right, then we'll go to you, Brent.
Do you want her to go next?
No, just, well, she can come up if she wants, but go ahead, since you're there and at the mic.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairperson and members of the committee for allowing me to testify today. I am here today to offer a student's point of view on why the committee should support Senate Bill 753, the Cybersecurity Workforce Accelerator Program, which would expand the Maryland Technology Internship Program, or MTIP. I'm a recent information systems graduate from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, where I had multiple internships and technical positions during my 4 years there, one of which was with the Maryland Department of Information Technology. And although I am not representing their views on this legislation, I am representing my own experience as a student intern turned full-time employee at the Maryland IT Department. I was fortunate enough to intern for a semester in the Office of Enterprise Architecture, working on documentation projects that allow specifically department executives to better understand themselves and to link strategy, business, and technology. The Maryland Department of IT receives matching funds through MTIP to support their internship program. As an intern, I worked on projects that have had a direct impact on various aspects of cybersecurity at the state level by allowing our security and infrastructure teams to better understand themselves. This experience has made me a much more well-rounded individual at work and at home. Students all over Maryland need this kind of access to valuable, paid, hands-on experiences like internships to be able to seamlessly transition from the classroom to the workforce. Internships provide students with applicable experience which complements their in-classroom experience. There's a need for talented and skilled graduates in Maryland. It is no secret that cyber threats infiltrate every industry and can be extremely costly, not only to our economy, but potentially to our critical infrastructure as well. The Maryland Technology Internship Program has allowed small tech companies as well as state agencies to pay competitive hourly rates and attract high-quality students to foster the next generation of security and IT professionals. Expanding the MTIP program would allow more tech firms and state agencies to expand their programs and pay more competitively. This means more young people like myself would have the opportunity to have their lives and careers changed in a truly meaningful way. Thank you, and I hope you vote favorably for this position.
Thank you. Senator Kramer.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your testimony. You did an excellent job, and I've got a quick question you may or may not be able to respond to. Do you think, and because you just graduated, and we heard the bill sponsor discussing the fact that we have this huge shortage of people to fill these tech jobs in the state, and I'm not going to ask you if you graduated with student debt, but do you think you and your peers that you graduated with would be more inclined to stay and take jobs in Maryland to fill these vacancies if you were receiving, upon graduation and taking one of those jobs within Maryland, a tax credit to offset your student debt as an incentive for staying and taking a Maryland tech job instead of leaving the state and going elsewhere, Massachusetts or California perhaps? Would that be meaningful?
I would definitely say yes, sir. Absolutely. I can say that I have student debt, and a little bit thank you to my grandfather and father for providing me with a great, most of my education. But that's a huge burden
Might be a
for
good
any student.
incentive to keep.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you for your testimony. Great job.
Thank you. Now we'll go to Laura Nelson.
Madam Chair, Vice Chairman, and members of the Finance Committee, thank you for the opportunity to support Senate Bill 753. My name is Laura Nelson. I am the President and Chief Executive Officer of the National Cryptologic Foundation, and I serve as a member of the Maryland Cybersecurity Council on the Workforce Development Committee. Also, I retired from the National Security Agency after 37 years of service in 2018. Our mission is to educate the public on the importance of cryptology and cybersecurity in defending our nation with a focus on educating the public, especially our nation's youth, As a nationally reputed provider of assured quality cyber education resources, our efforts help reduce cyber workforce deficits and current skills shortfalls, thereby promoting cyber professions as a fulfilling career choice. Our experience shows that leveraging national-level strategies, coordinating across elementary, secondary, and post-secondary institutions, and investing in innovative cybersecurity education program results in students reached, parents informed, and teachers trained. Much has been accomplished, but we must accelerate the pace. This bill shows that Maryland is very serious about resolving its workforce deficit of 21,000 vacant cybersecurity jobs, according to cyberseek.org. Engaging industry in the cybersecurity workforce programs leverages their experience to enhance curriculum development, producing students with current skill sets needed today. Critical to this collaboration is developing the pathways between educational institutions and employers. Our students will have a place to hone their skills and obtain competency in a safe environment on the proposed cyber range, and also current employees who wish to transition to the cybersecurity workforce will have the opportunity to do so. Funding this accelerator program assures our students, teachers, educational institutions, and industry have the resource to develop an increased number of competent individuals. I'm in full support of Senate Bill 753 as accelerating the match between those hiring and those seeking jobs. And as we watch world events unfold, it becomes even more important for our infrastructure and our citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, we need to use the table for the last three witnesses. Tasha Cornish, Terry Bazemore Jr., and John Fiestro, who is favorable with an amendment. Let's come quickly. We need to get 6 bills heard and then to try to vote on 21 bills before we go back at 6 o'clock.
22, Madam Chair, this one, right?
Yeah, okay.
I mean, is that
All
slip one by?
right. You have 2 minutes each.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, for the record, John Fiestro, on behalf of Cybersecurity Association of Maryland. Just a few notes. First, we want to say thank you to the sponsor. She's worked very tirelessly over the last 2 years plus. I'm sure, more than that, but at least 2 years that
You
I'm
only got
aware
2
of.
minutes, and you better tell us your
I know, I need to
take,
spend
and
time on the
you have an
sponsor.
amendment.
Madam Chair, I need to spend time on the sponsor.
Okay, no, you don't.
So we want to say thank you to her on this work. And as you will notice, and you've seen and you've read, there's a package of cybersecurity bills. And while this might not necessarily be part of that package, this is certainly a companion to that set of legislation. And why do I say that? Well, frankly, if the state is passing cybersecurity legislation, whether it affects the state or insurance, or whether it affects public utilities, someone needs to do the work. And this is the linchpin to that legislation to make sure that Maryland's workforce related to cyber actually can perform and actually be trained up and ready for the job. So we thank the Senator for this piece of legislation, bringing that forward. We also want to say thank you for the inclusion of Cybersecurity Association of Maryland within the document, within the bill. And a little notice here, Howard County itself is a finalist to offer a regional grant that's offered by U.S. Economic Development Authority. And the federal government, the authority itself, in reviewing finalist applications, are taking into account state funding for training.
To make sure we get to understand your amendment, you signed up with an amendment.
Yes, ma'am. And you should be getting those shortly from the sponsor's office, but this covers that, a mention of the USEDA grant and the ability for these funds that are contemplated within the bill to be leveraged into those federal dollars. Particularly the UMBC Accelerator and the desire to put together a task force, a talent pipeline management program. That's governed by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. That's in here. The funds within the bill are specifically targeted for that, among other things, and that is of unique interest to CAMI to design a workforce training that actually matches industry needs. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's go, but we don't have time.
Did you look at the fiscal note?
Senator,
Are you speaking to me, Senator? Yes.
I didn't
Do you
call
agree?
on her.
Do I, with what part exactly?
With the fiscal note that's here?
Well,
Okay, that's okay. Let me talk with the sponsor.
But Senator Benson, can I let them talk to you a little later?
I'll just let me talk, I'll just talk to the sponsor.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, let's hear the other two witnesses.
Great. Thank you.
Tasha?
Yes. Great. So for the record, my name is Tasha Cornish. I'm the Executive Director of the Cybersecurity Association of Maryland, a proud Baltimore resident and District 40 resident as well. So Chairman Kelly, Vice Chairman Feldman, members of the committee, thanks for this bill and for hearing this today. As you heard, there are more than 20,000 unfilled cyber jobs in Maryland, affecting our more than 600 companies and security teams embedded in other industries. These vacancies create security vulnerabilities that John explained, and we don't have the applicant pools currently with the right skills to fill these open positions. This program bridges the gap between industry and the cybersecurity pipeline in a few meaningful ways. We know as an industry and as the job providers, we have a role to play in growing the cybersecurity talent pipeline. Our companies are eager to build work-based learning programs, but as Annie shared, this isn't easy for these small companies. The programs leveraged here, like MTIP and MATP, can assist employers in implementing impactful programs and removing barriers to their success. Furthermore, our companies want to create diverse and inclusive workplaces, but we know that there are systemic challenges to overcome for our workforce to reflect the demographics in our beautiful state. Investments in K-12 outreach programs and the Cyber Warrior Diversity Program at HBCUs can inspire the next generation of cybersecurity professionals to learn and grow here. Cybersecurity is an impactful economic driver for our state, but without the workforce to sustain the growth, Maryland will be left behind. To fill in-demand jobs, companies are hiring talent from wherever they can find it because there is not a coordinated effort to connect local talent early in their training with local companies, or to upskill the current workforce with in-demand skills. By coordinating existing programs we have here under the Accelerator program, you will train Marylanders for good-paying jobs with high growth potential here in our state. Our organization urges a favorable report. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. And finally, Terry.
Madam Chair and esteemed committee, I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to testify in support of Senate Bill 753. My name is Terry Bazemore Jr. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of i3 Technologies. We're economically disadvantaged, woman-owned small business located in the illustrious and gorgeous Prince George's County, where I'm a lifelong resident. The reason I stand in full support of this bill is because of the intentionality of its proposed way forward for the cybersecurity industry while simultaneously creating opportunities for the community. The K-12 initiative provides paid externships for teachers to learn new skills in cyber, but also the opportunity to teach potentially life-saving cybersecurity safety skills to a vulnerable population, which is our children, while also providing our children the ability to see the potential of a career in cybersecurity, starting the pipeline at its earliest points. The desired diversification of the cybersecurity workforce via investment in the Cyber Warrior Diversity Program for HBCUs will provide opportunity for showcasing the talent and skills of the African-American population, which is definitely underrepresented in this career field. As an economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business with a huge emphasis on small, this bill is a game changer for us. We currently spend upwards of 20 to 30 hours to find just one potentially qualified candidate to interview. By strategically mapping cybersecurity training, certifications, and education to current industry trends and needs, which is what the bill proposes, this will provide a qualified pool pipeline that we are desperately in need of to efficiently and effectively fulfill our contracts and survive out here as a business. Accompanying this with the Amazing Stars Initiative, passed by the governor to alleviate the stringent education requirements that become employment barriers for qualified individuals who just don't have a degree, we will see Maryland truly leading as the cybersecurity hub of the United States. i3 Technology urges a favorable report for this bill. I would like to thank you for your time. Oh, and I need to shout out my wife, who is the CEO of the company. Forgive me for that. Summer Bazemore.
Okay, thank you. All right, that ends the testimony on this good bill, and we're going next to, okay. All right, Mr. Vice.
Okay, we're going to go next to Chair Kelly's bill, which is Senate Bill 677. And I'll let you get up here. Madam Chair,
Good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chair and members. Senate Bill 677 with significant amendments is here before us today because of concerns of health care slippage and poor financial management of far too many Maryland nursing homes, serving our most fragile and medically needy elderly residents. Let's review together significant declines in quality of care combined in far too many cases with poor financial management concerning numbers of private equity investment companies purchasing Maryland nursing homes based on profit motives and with little or no concern for the healthcare needs the interpersonal needs, and the quality of life concerns of nursing home residents. COVID-19 has both highlighted and exacerbated short staffing, a problem that has long existed in the nursing home industry. I have been working with advocates, industry representatives, regulators, and some other legislators to identify and address concerns at our nursing homes, including rapid transfers of ownership in this industry, especially the increasing number of nursing home purchases by private equity investment companies, more interested in company profits than in promoting healthy and socially affirming environments for their nursing home residents. In December 2020, the Washington Post reported the terrible conditions at a major chain of skilled nursing facilities purchased by a private equity investment company. I've got the article attached for you, attached to my written testimony. Family members and concerned staff described unsafe conditions for the residents, coupled with reduced wages and benefits for staff immediately following the purchase. I'm proud of the work that colleagues accomplished last session to pass a bill that requires increased quality surveys of Maryland nursing homes sold to out-of-state operators. Senate Bill 704, last year's survey bill, has given us an important tool, and the Maryland Office of Healthcare Quality reports that we expect about 6 of our nursing homes in Maryland to transfer to out-of-state operators this year. Maryland needs a much clearer picture of the quality, the service deficits, and the financial management and affordability of our nursing homes. And we need a better understanding of how many are at risk of being purchased by bad actors. Nursing homes already file cost reports, and our Healthcare Commission uses this information for healthcare planning. We need to understand more, however, regarding industry trends. Are nonprofit facilities faring worse than for-profits? Are there concerning trends that regulators can identify across ownership chains? Are good established operations at risk of being acquired by private equity companies which are more concerned about profits than about the delivery of quality care? Information regarding the finances and quality controls of nursing homes are not easily accessible to nursing home residents or to their families and advisors, although nursing homes are supported by Medicaid dollars. As amended, Senate Bill 677 will not require a new calendar of audits, but will reflect advice received from the Maryland Healthcare Commission. Senate Bill 677, as amended, will do the following. It highlights each change in ownership of any Maryland nursing home during the calendar year. It describes management trends of Maryland nursing homes by ownership group and by region. And third, it reports a summary of financial data included in public use data sets so that the public and the legislature can see profitability, operating costs and expenses, as well as margins. I invite you to join the advocates for Senate Bill 677 in calling upon the Healthcare Commission to include website links to cost reports already required by every Maryland nursing home. Colleagues, knowledge is power for the General Assembly and for the public, especially for families and advisors of Marylanders requiring nursing home services. I therefore ask for your favorable report of Senate Bill 677 as amended.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Any questions for Chair Kelly before we move to the witnesses? Seeing none, I'm going to call up 4 favorable or favorable with amendments. Claudia Baylog, Tracy DeShields, Stevan Ellis, and Ben Steffen. And then after that, there will be 1 unfavorable witness. So we'll start, whoever wants to lead off favorable with amendment. Claudia?
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Claudia Balog, for the record. I'm the lead researcher with 1199 SEIU. We represent 10,000 workers in nursing homes, hospitals, and clinics in the region. We are here in support of SB 677 with amendments and urge a favorable report. So we know that when facilities change owners, conditions can deteriorate. To make a nursing home more profitable, some new owners will come in and slash labor costs. So what this looks like is a worker will arrive to work, they will see a sign on the door, they will learn that they have a new employer. And then in a few weeks, they're going to learn that perhaps their PTO has been slashed or their benefits have been slashed. And we know that this is a huge factor in employee turnover, which is a factor in turn in quality. So this churn, as it's called, it's not going to stop. And consumers and advocates, we all need to understand the finances of this industry. And legislators and decision makers do too. As Madam Chair described, there are 30,000 beds supported by Medicaid tax dollars. We need nursing homes that can afford to pay for staff, for training, for PPE, for infection control. We need nursing homes that won't contribute to increased hospitalizations, especially in Maryland, where those costs impact our hospital rate setting system. So if good skilled nursing facilities are vulnerable to acquisition, that's information we need to know in order to assist. If there are trends across types of operators or chains, that's important too. Synthesized data is what we're talking about as another tool to effectively make decisions that protect our community. And other states provide great examples of synthesized data. I'm happy to provide any information. So I just want to thank Senator Kelly for her efforts to create transparency in this industry and urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll just go through the whole panel, then we'll open up for questions. Ms. DeShields?
Yes, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Tracy DeShields. I'm with the Maryland Healthcare Commission, and I'm here to convey our support for Senate Bill 677 with the amendments offered by Senator Kelly and SEIU. So we really appreciate it. We met with SEIU about the bill. We did have some concerns prior to the amendments. We explained what information we currently collect, how it's collected, and how it is disseminated to the public, if you will. And they heard that, they came back with the amendments, and we concurred with that. You have our position statement. I won't go through that. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have with regard to MHCC and our role here on this bill. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Ms. Ellis, and then we'll open up for questions.
Thank you. My name is Savannah Ellis. I'm the State Long-Term Care Ombudsman. Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee for hearing our testimony today. As the State Ombudsman, I advocate for the most vulnerable residents in Maryland, residents of nursing homes and assisted livings. One of the most challenging things that people have to face when choosing a nursing home is finding information. And this bill would help with increasing transparency and allow people to be more informed consumers and understand the complexities of how nursing homes are funded and owned. There are many concerns, as Senator Kelly said, about ownership and fiscal transparency, including private equity companies and real estate investment trusts. The information online is often incredibly difficult to find, difficult to interpret, and incomplete. In fact, one of the websites I looked at from the state of Maryland had information from Myers and Stauffer, and the link's been dead for several years, so can't find that information. So that's just an example currently. Information is power. And this will allow people to understand patterns related to staffing, financial issues, and it might explain why in some facilities they're having issues like broken elevators and those sorts of things that make it difficult for residents to get around as a sign of fiscal instability. I'm hoping that this bill will pass. I'm hoping that you will support it because it really will make it easier for people to understand if a nursing home is having fiscal issues, why there might be care issues. And also, I think that if we have more transparency and have more of a model like some of the other states with the information available, people will choose long-term care in Maryland as opposed to other states. I respectfully ask you to to support this bill. Thank you very much for hearing our testimony.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for any of the witnesses? Okay, seeing none, thank you. And we'll go, we have one unfavorable, Dana Kaufman. Ms. Kaufman? Yeah, Mr. Steffen's not, I do not see him. Yeah, Tracy, you were here for Ben Steffen? Yeah,
Yes,
Yeah.
I stood in for him. We are in our commission meeting.
gotcha, okay. Dana? It's all
Thank
yours.
you.
2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Dana Kaufman. I'm here on behalf of Lifespan Network. I'm going to use 30 seconds of my 2 minutes, though, to say one thing. When the pandemic hit in March of 2020, nursing homes, just like everyone else, was trying to figure out how to handle a virus that nobody had ever seen before. And in doing so, they honestly received very little help in the beginning to figure it out. They didn't even get PPE. I will say that the three associations ended up becoming procurers of PPE, and I actually delivered it myself to some of the nursing homes and assisted livings. That's where they were in the beginning of this pandemic. And yes, after a while, we did get additional, or the nursing homes got additional help. But I also think that for so many, it's being generalized of the care that's provided, and so many of them provide such good care and work tirelessly over the last 2 years, and I don't think that that should be forgotten. The reason I'm opposing this bill is twofold. And it is correct, information, data is information, but you need to know what you want to accomplish with that data. And that's what concerns me about this bill. I don't think it is well defined what the purpose is. And frankly, one more audit is not going to give us a better financial picture. The information that is being requested is already requested or obtained by the health department and CMS in a number of different reports, our cost reports, our payroll journal data, our minimum data set. It's all out there. If there's a link that's broken on a state website, then fix it. We can't do that. But I do think that if you're looking at a better financial picture, and we have also expressed concern with the purchase of out-of-state. We, Lifespan, had meetings over the interim with the Office of Healthcare Quality and the Maryland Healthcare Commission to try to figure out ways that we can ensure that those companies that are coming out of state and buying our Maryland nursing homes have a good track record, so we don't see some of the things that we've seen. Unfortunately, we weren't able to, it's not easy, because you also don't want a nursing home that needs to be bought not to be bought, so it is a complicated situation. But again, data does rule, but this is only creating what we believe is just one more audit that's not going to accomplish really what you're looking at. I'm also concerned because you already passed a bill that increases the Maryland Healthcare Commission's user fees that is directly paid for by nursing homes. They already received one increase this year. This would give them another increase. So we do think that there are things that we can do to better the industry, especially the purchases, but we don't think that this bill is it. So we respect a unfavorable. Thank you. Or we request an unfavorable. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Ms. Kaufman, questions for the witness? Okay, seeing none, that concludes the bill hearing on Senate Bill 677. I'll yield it back to Chair Kelly.
Thank you. All right, we're going next to Senator Augustine, Senate Bill 917. And let me call up your two witnesses, Katie Wunderlich and Megan Renfrey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Malcolm Augustine here for Senate Bill 917, Healthcare Facilities Health Service Cost Review Commission User Fee Assessment. Colleagues, Senate Bill 917 changes the methodology for calculating the Commission's user fee assessment cap in a way that would provide HSCRC with the budget it needs to continue its critical work supporting the Maryland health model. The methodology also directly links funding for the Commission to the industry it is tasked with regulating. HSCRC plays a crucial role in administering and advancing the Maryland health model, which brings many key benefits to Marylanders, including cost containment, improved quality outcomes, and investment in population health. HSCRC also provides valuable expertise to the legislature through legislative assigned reports. The user fee is an assessment on hospital rates, which are paid by Marylanders' payers, including Medicaid, Medicare, and commercial carriers through an assessment under Maryland's unique all-payer rate-setting system. This bill sets a cap on the user fee amount. The HSCRC sets the user fee assessment annually based on its appropriation. This has passed the House, colleagues, I wanted to just let you know, this has passed the House, this piece of legislation has passed the House, and it is in our possession, but it is with an amendment. And that amendment is a sunset after 3 years, which acts as a guardrail so that we have to come back and assess this new mechanism. And I support that position. I'm presenting the bill as amended and passed by the House. We are joined here at the table by Kate Wunderlich, the Executive Director of HSCRC. She's going to provide further testimony, and I request a favorable report on Senate Bill 917 as amended.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members of the committee. First, I do want to thank Senator Augustine for sponsoring this important legislation, and for my colleagues Megan Renfrew and Hannah Friedman Bell, who have provided a lot of support through this process. We are here today requesting a favorable report on this important legislation. As Senator Augustine mentioned, it does provide a mechanism to continue funding for the Health Services Cost Review Commission. In addition to, the benefits that Senator Augustine outlined to Marylanders from the model, we are, as a staff, pushing beyond just hospitals, and we're looking at coordinating and facilitating partnerships between hospitals and community-based organizations, addressing health equity and population health in the community, supporting critical state infrastructure, including CRISP, including nurse support programs and others. We are developing voluntary programs for physicians to engage in value-based care, and of course, monitoring the health and capacity of hospitals in the system. And so this user fee bill and the change to the mechanism to tie it to a % of gross patient revenue will really allow the HSCRC to be funded and to grow at a reasonable rate with the industry that it's tied to. As you all well know, we have requirements in place to meet certain savings to the Medicare program, so we are still tied to that reasonable rate of growth. So we want to thank the sponsor for putting this important legislation forward, and I'd be happy to take any questions that you all have on the bill.
Okay, thank you. All right, you may.
I am Megan Renfrew. For the record, I'm with the Health Services Cost Review Commission, and I am actually just here to support Katie if there are any questions that I can help with.
Okay, I think Katie did a good job.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll go to the next bill. If we're racing, we really are, because we have altogether 6 of these bills and then 21 bills we want to try to vote before we go back at 6 o'clock. Okay. All right, Senator Klossmeyer is next, Senate Bill 700, and we'll ask Bob Atlas, Robin Elliott, and William Peloso to come up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 700, Maryland Department of Health Prevent Workplace Violence in Healthcare Settings Public Awareness Campaign Work Group. Senate Bill 700 would require the Maryland Department of Health to convene a work group to develop a public awareness campaign to prevent workplace violence in healthcare settings. The campaign would provide the public with information on, number 1, the magnitude of the incidence of workplace violence in healthcare settings in Maryland. Number 2, the consequences of the workplace violence in healthcare settings in Maryland. Number 3, the need for the public to respect and protect Maryland's healthcare providers from workplace violence. And number 4, the need to recognize and accommodate the needs of patients with mental health, substance abuse, and disabilities. 75% of the workplace assaults reported annually occur in healthcare settings. Workers in healthcare settings are 4 times more likely to be victims of workplace violence than workers in other settings. Violence-related injuries are 4 times more likely to cause healthcare workers to take time off from work than any other kind of injuries. The actual number of violent incidents involving healthcare is likely much higher because episodes of workplace violence are grossly underreported. The experience of workplace violence has not only physical consequences, but personal, emotional, and professional consequences as well. Although hospitals and other providers are actively working to prevent workplace violence, the violence is still increasing. Violence against healthcare workers should not be accepted or tolerated as just part of the job. Having an increased public awareness campaign on this issue would help combat this phenomenon and provide the support of our healthcare providers need and deserve. I also have, there's a small amendment for the makeup of the work group that should be in your packet. And I want to thank the committee for their consideration of Senate Bill 700. And I am requesting a favorable report. And I just have to say, after the past 2.5 years, I think things have probably gotten worse with the COVID, and it finally is recognized that we do have a problem, and I hope this campaign works. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's move to Bob Atlas.
Madam Chair, for the record, Bob Atlas, President and CEO of the Maryland Hospital Association, here in support of Senate Bill 700. First, I want to thank the sponsor for bringing this vital bill forward, and her remarks were very compelling. Let me get right to the heart of the matter with a question. How many of you have been kicked or bitten or spit on or threatened in your line of work? For most people who go to work each day, such abuse is no concern. But for healthcare workers in Maryland, it is a sad reality. As the sponsor mentioned, a national study by the Joint Commission found that 3/4 of all workplace assaults in all workplace settings occurred in healthcare settings, and sadly, violence has spiked in the last 2 years. This is patently unacceptable. People choose healthcare careers because they're passionate about healing others. It is a calling. Hospitals know families are greatly stressed when under their roofs. Hospital teams are compassionate and caring. They're taught to de-escalate tension and to communicate clearly about patients' conditions, prognoses, and treatments. Hospitals go to great lengths to keep their facilities and their people safe. They employ security teams, issues management teams, and more. They assess risks, deploy escalation plans, and train staff. They use all sorts of technology to observe and to react when needed, but that is not enough. And while violence isn't the primary driver of workforce shortages, it is a contributor. It's affecting people's decisions to stay in the profession or to go into healthcare in the first place. Our message is that hospitals workers are there to help and heal patients, not to be hurt or threatened for caring. We need a call to action, a public awareness mechanism that holds our healthcare workers up as the heroes that they are. We urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, then we'll go on to William Palazzo.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the Senate Committee. My name is William Palazzi. I'm currently the Vice President, Chief Security Officer for MedStar Health. Prior to joining MedStar in March of 2020, I served with the Maryland State Police for 32 years, the last 5 years as the superintendent of the State Police, and worked with many of the members of this committee. I mention this not to say who I am. I mention it from the standpoint that even I was shocked at the amount of violence that takes place in our hospitals and that our healthcare workers have to deal with. And as previously mentioned, it is grossly underreported. I personally have worked with many physicians, nurses, technicians, and associates to deal with the aftermath of physical assaults, verbal threats, stalking incidents, both online and in person, and other crimes. And these have occurred at hospitals, urgent cares or ambulatory centers, doctors' offices, and even with healthcare providers working in individuals' homes. Protecting associates from danger in the workplace violence is a key priority for MedStar Health. Over the last 5 years, MedStar Health has developed system-wide comprehensive workplace violence prevention programs to address many of these issues. Developed a system-wide electronic system that allows for incidents to be tracked involving workplace violence. Developed zero-tolerance policies for workplace violence. Installed security signage throughout our facilities, noting what is prohibited acts within our facilities and urging cooperation. We trained over 2,400 associates in our high-risk areas, that being security, behavioral health, and our emergency departments, in de-escalation and physical safety skills. We've implemented mandatory awareness training for over 30,000 MedStar Health associates in an effort to ensure that they know we're taking the necessary steps for the safety and security of our associates. Beginning in September of 2019, de-escalation training was mandated for over 1,200 associates. With that, I would ask that, you support this. It should not be part of the job that a healthcare worker is assaulted. They're there to care for people, not to be injured. Thank you, and I would urge your support.
Thank you. Senator Jennings.
Colonel, just want to say, great to see you. Congratulations on your retirement. I don't think any of us have seen you since.
Thank you, sir.
So you're looking good, looking
I
relaxed.
appreciate it. Going from law enforcement to healthcare has been a challenge, but,
I will say I didn't know where you went when you left the state police.
well, it was the day after COVID hit, ma'am, so
Okay,
lots of things changed.
okay, thank you. All right, thanks to this panel. Robin.
Thank you, Chair Kelly. Members of the committee, Robin Elliott here on behalf of the Maryland Nurses Association. About 4 years ago, the Maryland Nurses Association asked its members what was their number one priority, and the response was incredibly clear. It was to reduce the amount of workplace violence in healthcare settings. As a result of that, we formed a partnership, a collaborative with the Maryland Hospital Association, and have been working on both legislative and non-legislative solutions in the past 4 years. This bill is really important because the nurses tell me that when they experience workplace violence, that it seems to be, even the nurses themselves have sort of adopted this sort of stance or understanding that is part of their work culture, is part of their job. And to really bring public awareness that nurses and others should not be hit, kicked, punched, assaulted, or worse because they are trying to help their patients. The assaults come from patients, families, or sometimes members of the public who have come into the healthcare setting. Nurses want to do their jobs. They want to take care of their patients. As you know, it's been very challenging, and we ask for some help. This bill will help us make sure that everyone, including all the others in the healthcare community, the broader public, understand that workplace violence is just not acceptable anywhere, but especially in healthcare. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you. All right, Senator Bidle.
This is a real quick question, I think for Mr. Atlas. Do you think it got worse during COVID? Was there more confrontations because of the visitation and things during COVID?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, we now will go to our second panel, Dana Kaufman, Martha Nathanson, and Nancy Proglowski.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Martha Nathanson, Vice President, Government Relations for LifeBridge Health, serving Baltimore County, Baltimore City, and Carroll County primarily. I'll do a Me Too on all of the actions that we take within LifeBridge to educate our employees, to protect our employees, and just give an analogy. We need the public's help on this. This comes to us from the public. People aren't coming in specifically to do harm to our staff. They're bringing frustrations and stresses from their life in the community, and they come out during their interactions with us. And just like, I was thinking the other day, just like the police ask for help from the public in solving crimes or investigating crimes, we're asking for help from the public, to educate the public and ask for their help in changing the mindset for when they come into our facilities to work with the people that want to help them get better. So with that, I ask for a favorable report. Thank you.
Do you think the bill has the right modalities for accomplishing the goal?
I think that the purposes of the bill cover everything. I'm especially pleased that we're looking at the different kinds of needs of behavioral health patients, because as my folks have told us, they can tell the difference between a confrontation that comes from a behavioral health episode, not just a diagnosis, but in an episode, or a grief reaction, for example. Someone might lash out at an employee in a grief reaction, and that's taken very differently from an actual just sort of attack and a frustration. And I think that the membership with the addition of the state's attorneys, I think will be very helpful because they're an active part of the process. And we have, I just had a quick number sent to me by my folks. System-wide, we had, just for assaults, we had 184 within the past 9 months. And about 65 of them 25 of them went to actual prosecution. And the problem is when they go to prosecution, sometimes they're not seen through the system. They get null processed, and they're not able to be adjudicated. And sometimes when they're adjudicated, that's a way for them to get access to services. So that's why we wanted to include, I think we have the right people and the right purposes. So I ask for a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Nancy Progulowski.
Good afternoon, Chair Kelly, Vice Chair Feldman, and members of the committee. My name is Nancy Preglowski, and I am a Patient Safety Innovation Coordinator for the Johns Hopkins Hospital. Before I took this position, I worked as a nurse on the Child and Adolescent Psychiatry Unit for 32 years. The last 10 of those years, I worked as the manager. The question was asked earlier, who's been hit, kicked, or punched, or spit on? I could raise my hand. I appreciate the opportunity to testify in support of this bill. I continue to be in awe of the compassion and the commitment that our nurses have when they care for our patients. However, our healthcare workers continue to face the threat of workplace violence as they strive to deliver that compassionate care. For the past few years, we've seen such an increase in violent events and staff injuries. Just last month, one of our nurses was punched in the head and sustained a concussion and was out for 5 weeks. We at Hopkins, remain committed to creating a safe work environment. To that end, we have 2 initiatives in place that we can offer situational awareness for our staff. We're able to flag the chart in for our patients that are violent. And then for those staff who don't have chart access, like our environmental care workers, we're able to put an indicator on the patient's door so that if they have to go into the room, they know that they should see the nurse first to get tips on how to interact with that patient. We also have a workplace violence steering committee that I co-chair. We're developing crisis prevention training, and we monitor trends. We're also updating our visitor management system. So thank you again for this opportunity, and I hope that you know that Hopkins urges a favorable report for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Dana?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Dana Kaufman. I'm here on behalf of the Maryland chapter for the American College of Emergency Physicians and for MedChi. You have my written testimony, and for the sake of your time, I'm just going to say that we do support, we think this bill is very important, and we urge a favorable vote.
Thank you very much. Okay, Senator Klossmeyer, if you want to return for your Senate Bill 909, Health Occupations Nursing Home Administrator Qualifications. And we'll ask Joe DeMatos, Ashley Bagwell, and Brian Klossmeyer to join you at the table.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 909, Health Occupations, Nursing Home Administrator Qualifications. As my sponsor panel will also tell you, for several years, nursing homes and other long-term care facilities have been having difficulty attracting and retaining qualified personnel to licensed nursing home administrators. This has been a persistent issue that has only been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Senate Bill 909 aims to address this issue by expanding the nursing home administrator workforce. The bill does this by allowing more interstate reciprocity of licensed professionals. Under the bill, if an individual holds an active nursing home administrator license in good standing and has practiced as an administrator for 3 years in another state, they would be eligible to serve as an administrator in Maryland as well. This is similar to other provisions implemented during COVID-19 pandemic to expand the healthcare professional workforce. The bill also reduces the amount of required training for applicants who already have significant professional experience. It is important to note that Senate Bill 909 would not remove the requirement to successfully pass the written qualification exam or any other requirements. Maryland currently has very stringent nursing home administrator requirements, and this bill puts Maryland's licensure requirements more in line with the requirements in our neighboring states. My sponsor panel can go into more detail about the change, why this change is necessary to maintain a robust workforce for Maryland nursing homes. I want to thank the committee for your consideration of Senate Bill 909 and am requesting a favorable report.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll start with Joseph D'Amatos.
Madam Chair, is it okay if I go first?
Okay, that's fine, Ashley.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I'm Ashley Bagwell here this afternoon on behalf of Health Facilities Association of Maryland in very strong support of Senate Bill 909. Here with me this afternoon is Mr. Brian Klossmeyer, the nursing home administrator at Franklin Woods Center. Before I turn it over to him, I just want to offer 2 quick points. First of all, this committee is quite familiar with the healthcare workforce crisis here in Maryland. And while Mr. Klossmeyer will speak to this directly and how this bill seeks to address at least a little part of this, I think it's worth noting, like Senator Klossmeyer said, while this issue has been exacerbated by COVID, it's an issue that predates the pandemic. This is something that we have been working to find a solution for a couple of years. Second, I think it's worth emphasizing that quality of care is of incredible importance to us. Opposition to this bill may suggest that this bill seeks to jeopardize quality of care for patients and residents, and simply we disagree with that. We have submitted quite a bit of data attached to our written testimony that we think refutes that. And so I hope that you'll take just a little bit of time to look through both our testimony and the data that we have attached. But simply put, we think that this bill seeks a good balance, a balance between continuing to ensure quality of care with further broadening the pool of nursing home administrator applicants in the state of Maryland. And again, that's done, as Senator Klossmeyer said, in 3 ways: by recognizing and giving credit for similar work done in other states or reciprocity. It's done by recognizing and giving credit for on-the-job training and experience. And it's done by recognizing and giving credit for relevant healthcare-related or aging educational experience. And so with that, Madam Chair, I'll turn it over to Mr. Klossmeyer, and I urge a favorable vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Kelly, Vice Chair Feldman, and members of the committee. My name is Brian Klossmeyer. I'm the administrator of Franklin Woods Center. We're a Genesis building in the Rosedale area of Baltimore County. First, I want to thank my senator, Senator Klossmeyer, for sponsoring this most important legislation. Not only is my center located in District 8, but I also live in District 8. So Senator Klossmeyer is a very favorite legislator of mine. I've been in the long-term care industry for close to 45 years. 38 of those have been as a nursing home administrator. And I must say it's a very rewarding profession, but very challenging. For a variety of reasons, and in the past 2 years, because of the pandemic, it's become much more challenging, especially when it becomes linked to workforce issues in long-term care. This legislation will provide the opportunity to expand the nursing home administrator workforce in Maryland. The bill does 2 things. Number one, it allows out-of-state administrators to practice in Maryland as long as they have 3 years' experience as an administrator in another state. We're very concerned about quality, and we want to make sure that the folks who are getting licenses in the state of Maryland have quality in mind. It also gives training credit to qualified individuals who have professional on-the-job work experience and education credentials. The legislation, as Ms. Bagwell said and Senator Klossmeyer said, the legislation does not reduce any of the qualification requirements beyond what the board may currently allow. The key difference is the board may reduce training requirements. However, training is rarely reduced for even those with many years of experience. Under this legislation, the board would be required to reduce training for qualified applicants, and I ask for a favorable report on the legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll go now to Mike Johansson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mike Johansson in favor of the bill on behalf of Peak Health. Peak Health is a relatively new company. They have 10 nursing facilities and 1 assisted living in the state of Maryland. They're headquartered in Sykesville. They have 4 facilities on the Eastern Shore, Montgomery County, Baltimore City, Baltimore County. So, I think Ashley said it well. There's always a balance when you come to these regulatory issues. And, just to keep in mind that when you have a nursing home administrator, they're not there by themselves. Small organizations, law organizations have lots of support. It's a system that's in place that helps make sure quality is excellent in nursing facilities. It's not any one person. And I think when you get to the point of flexibility that this bill provides, these are the same factors that we see across most other health occupation boards, where you have the ability for reciprocity, on-the-job training, or other educational standards. So we're not really doing anything innovative. It just is a little bit different for this particular position. So we strongly support it and would encourage you to help us in this kind of time of critical need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right, now we will go to the unfavorable: Sierra Lee, Felicia Anthony, and Stevan Ellis. You have 2 minutes each.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sierra Lee. I'm the Executive Director of the Board of Examiners of Nursing Home Administrators. Finance Committee, thank you for this opportunity to provide testimony for SB 909. Respectfully, I come to emphasize the board's opposition towards the bill as written for the following reasons. A, the bill has 2 major errors that would prevent anyone from getting licensed. B, it would not adhere to the board's mission to protect Maryland's citizens. C, it undermines the current statutory provisions to make sure that our state's credentials qualified individuals to protect the residents and excel successfully in the NHA role. And D, it diminishes the quality, standards, and education of candidates who intend to serve as nursing home administrators in Maryland. There are 2 options for individuals to become licensed nursing home administrators in Maryland. 1, to apply to the Administrator in Training Program, and that's for individuals who do not have experience as nursing home administrators. And secondly, to apply for the endorsement licensure if you currently hold a nursing home administrator license from out of state. Under the current qualifications, to apply for an endorsement license, applicants must have at least 1 year of nursing home administrator experience. Senate Bill 909 would reduce that required experience significantly and waive education requirements for endorsement applicants, possibly allowing an individual with a high school diploma to be fully responsible for services given to our loved ones. During the stakeholders meeting for the House version of this bill this week, it was made evident that the bill text and intentions for stakeholders are not clear, and it mainly addresses the altering of qualifications of the AIT program, not the qualifications of the endorsement program for applicants. There are other states that currently require more than 1 year of experience for endorsement applicants. New York requires at least 2 years of full-time experience. In Washington, D.C., requires at least 3 years of current practice as a nursing home administrator. Moving forward, further communication from stakeholders and the community with the board is needed if we want to address the workforce staffing challenges. And for those reasons, the board is requesting an unfavorable vote for Senate Bill 909. Thank you.
Okay, Senator Klossmeyer.
I just have, when you started out, you said there was something wrong with the bill, or you said there was a big problem with the bill?
There are major errors.
Yeah, what are
Written
those,
in the-
what are those, as you were talking, or is that what you were referring to?
The bill text has major errors in the bill. And I am referencing errors. For instance, currently, our current provisions state that there are 2 avenues to become licensed in Maryland. That bill, if you take out, it states, excuse me, I'm just pulling it up. On page 2 of the bill, at the bottom, line 27, you have had to complete an administrator and training program approved by the board, or have completed 1 year of full-time nursing home administration in the nursing home. In this bill text, we are removing the or and changing the 1 year requirement to 9 months. If we take out or, that actually changes the intent of the bill, I believe. You're actually saying that you are requiring applicants to complete an administrator and training program as well as the 9 months of full-time nursing home administration. And then you have number 3, where it says, or have completed 6 months of full-time nursing home administration in nursing home, and they have to have 3 other conditions. So you're really, the intent of the bill itself is not reducing reducing experience. You're actually adding experience. It's kind of contradictory. So you're saying that the individuals have to have experience as well as the AIT program, but you're also requiring them to have AIT or be licensed in a different state.
Okay, and just one other question, and are you aware that there are problems with not having nursing home administrators?
Oh, nursing home administrators are very critical in long-term care. So we do know that there are,
A shortage?
well, we have no data or evidence that there is shortage of nursing home administrators, because we have, in our system, in our data, states that we have 508 licensed nursing home administrators in Maryland, when we only have 226 facilities. Now, what the data is, I have not received any data showing that there is a distinct shortage of nursing home administrators.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Hello, my name is Stevan Ellis. I'm the State Long-Term Care Ombudsman. Thank you, members of the committee, Madam Chair, Vice Chair. Thank you so much again for hearing our testimony today. I wanted just to take a moment for you all to think about what nursing home administrators have to do. And one of the reasons why, even though we talked about the crisis of COVID in Maryland and all over the country, one of the reasons I think some of our nursing homes have been so successful is because we've had great nursing home administrators. And because of that, the care of the residents has been pretty good despite COVID. So I just wanted to point that out in the beginning. And nursing home administrators have to do everything. They have to know everything. They have to know the infrastructure of the building, the maintenance of the building, the care, the medicine, and all the financial stuff that was alluded to earlier about a different bill. So there's a lot of knowledge and training, and I'm very worried that if you, and I'm going to point out a few things, but if you reduce any training standards, that we could have lower quality, less experienced, more poorly trained administrators. As an advocate, I'm very concerned about the adverse effect to residents in Maryland. So I just wanted to point that out. So a few things in addition to what Sierra Lee pointed out. There are a few concerns I have about relative experience. So an assistant administrator in another state is different than Maryland. We don't know what those qualifications would be, so you can't necessarily compare them. The other qualifications that could be allowed, director of nurses, nursing home assistants, It could be different in another state, and plus a nurse and a nursing home assistant is not the same as administrator. They typically don't have time to learn all the things that administrators would need to have to learn, nor would they have the experience to transfer those skills to be a nursing home administrator. We really do have the most vulnerable residents in Maryland in nursing homes, and I'm very worried that this would reduce the qualifications of nursing home administrators for the original bill's intent, and I'm respectfully requesting an unfavorable report on this bill. Thank you very much.
Okay, and then Felicia Anthony.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. I am Felicia Anthony, the Board of Examiners of Nursing Home Administrators, Board Chair, and an Administrator. On behalf of the Board, we respectfully are not in support of Senate Bill 909. The Board's position is in line with protecting the public and equipping potential licensees with a sound training and educational experience. The bill as written is not clear and is more restrictive than current regulations and statutes in some ways, and requesting less training and education and experience in others. We must ask ourselves, how is reducing training productive to increasing public protection? The bill as written will cut corners as necessary training, and that is not what we believe is in the best interest of Maryland's most vulnerable population, our loved ones and yours. Most importantly, as mentioned, it is a bit confusing and challenging to interpret. For a brief example, for endorsement, applicants with 3 years' experience at present, the Board may waive any educational requirements, but the proposal states that the Board shall waive any educational requirements. Another example is a candidate with a bachelor's degree in, let's say, anthropology, with an active certification issued to them as a nursing home nursing assistant, and worked in a nursing home for 10 years as a nursing assistant, that their training will be cut in half to 6 months, without the candidate having supervisory, financial, or management experience in a nursing home. Let's be clear, nursing assistants hold a critical role, and we praise their service. We want to set them up for success with appropriate supervisory, financial, and management training. The Board would like to meet with stakeholders and engage in conversations that may lead to a greater understanding of the requested changes, goals, and options for the upcoming years. We respectfully request an unfavorable report on Senate Bill 909. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you just finished, I'm sorry I didn't get
Felicia.
your name, Steve, Felicia.
You need to
said-
talk into the mic.
You had mentioned you would like to get together with the nursing home administrators, and I think that would really be a great idea, and then maybe you can start collecting data to see what really is going on. So I think they would appreciate that.
Yes.
I would appreciate it, so, okay, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going next to Senate Bill 985, Senator Hershey. Labor and Employment, Unemployment Insurance Violations Penalties.
Here it is, I hear you really put 3 extra pages on.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Senator Steve Hershey to present Senate Bill 985. As you are all well aware, the state of Maryland and every state in the nation continues to see an onslaught of sophisticated unemployment insurance fraud. To date, Maryland Department of Labor's UI fraud prevention team has flagged nearly 1.8 million claimants and 2.3 million total claims as potentially fraudulent. This is a staggering amount of dishonesty and illegal activity. One of the recommendations made by the Department of Labor to the General Assembly in their final report was to update the unemployment insurance fraud penalties. Currently, Maryland has no mandatory minimum fine in place for unemployment insurance fraud, and its maximum fine is $1,000, one of the lowest in the country. SB 985 increases the existing incarceration penalty to up to 3 years and increases the fine to at least $600, but no more than $2,300, as suggested by the Department of Labor. Madam Chair, there's also testimony from Opportunity Solutions Project, which is a nonprofit, nonpartisan advocacy organization dedicated to advancing policies that reduce barriers to work and help people move from welfare to work. OSP has suggested a number of amendments that bring this bill in line with other states. There is an amendment in the file that does three things. Very simply, one, it codifies the federal program integrity requirements. Second, it codifies requirements to flag and review certain kinds of suspicious activity typical of UI fraudsters. And three, it establishes requirements, these requirements in the bills, to the current annual UI report to the Maryland General Assembly. Department of Labor has reviewed and agrees with these amendments. The bill is also supported by the Joint UI Oversight Committee, and I ask for a favorable committee report as amended. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Colleagues, we're.
That ends our bill hearings.
This ends our bill hearing. We are all right. We're now in a voting session, voting list number 11. And which analyst? All right, Nathan is going to start us off.
First bill on the voting list today is Senate Bill 150. As amended by amendments offered by Senator Augustine and as shown in the reprint, Senate Bill 150 requires Medicaid, beginning January 1st, 2023, and subject to the limitations of the state budget, to provide dental services, including diagnostic, preventative, restorative, and periodontal services for adults with household incomes up to 133% of the federal poverty level. The bill makes related changes, including repealing a pilot program for limited dental coverage for adults. The amendments strike the term comprehensive from the bill related to dental services and specifies coverage of diagnostic, preventative, restorative, and periodontal services as described. These amendments align with those under consideration in the House.
All right.
Delegate Cullison's bill.
Yes.
Yes.
Favorable as amended?
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All right, if not, all in favor, raise your hand. Let's see if this works. Okay, all right, that's unanimous.
I think we're going to stick with one analyst at a time, and so the next bill of mine that's on the list is Senate Bill 418, which, as amended by amendments offered by Senator Feldman and is shown in the reprint, Senate Bill 418 requires, on approval of a Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity, or CPCN, for a generation station with a cumulative nameplate capacity of 2 megawatts or more, or on approval of an exemption from the requirement to obtain a CPCN for such a generation station, that the developer of the proposed project meet specified requirements relating to, 1, community benefits agreements, 2, prevailing wage rates, and 3, contractor-subcontractor certifications and records. The standards must be enforced by the Department of Labor.
It's not on the
So the amendments strike the applicability of the bill to energy storage devices, alters the contents of the applicable community benefits agreements, and requires the developer to meet the bill's requirements, and requires the Department of Labor to enforce the requirements as described, rather than requiring the Public Service Commission to condition approval of a CPCN or exemption on the requirement that the developer meet the bill's requirements.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Are there any questions? Is there a motion?
We can move favorable on this good bill, Madam Chair.
Second. All right, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Is your hand up, Senator? All right, if you're ready to vote, then all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, all right, well, then we'll need to call the roll.
This is with amendments? Nathan, is it with amendments? Yeah. Okay, are we taking a roll? Or is, you're good? Okay, it's unanimous.
I don't think Jennings voted for it.
He just said he was good.
Oh, okay, all right, so it's unanimous, okay, fine.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't handle getting all these amendments ahead of time. My young mind hasn't developed.
The next bill.
Okay, I'm gonna ask that we stop the side conversation so we can move forward, try to get as far as we can. Okay.
The next bill to be voted on is Senate Bill 453, for which there are no amendments and therefore no reprint.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. Senator Benson, are you voting for it? Yes. All right, then that's unanimous. All right, thank you.
The next bill has come up a couple of times before. Senate Bill 524 requires the Department of Housing and Community Development to procure or provide energy efficiency and conservation programs and services for electricity customers subject to specified requirements. The programs and services must be designed to achieve a target annual incremental gross energy savings of at least 0.4% per year compared to 2016, starting in 2023. The bill establishes the Green and Healthy Task Force staffed by DHCD, and the bill establishes several reporting and planning requirements for DHCD and the Public Service Commission, including that DHCD develop a plan to provide energy efficiency retrofits to all low-income households by 2030. The amendments add the 2024 to 2026 Empower cycle to the bill. That can be found on page 3. Alters the benchmark year from 2019 to 2016, removes a prohibition on a particular type of insulation, which can be found on page 4, and makes technical changes.
Senator Feldman.
Yeah, well, when we left last time, actually, I believe Senator Augustine had actually moved favorable on the bill, and there was a second, and then, so this is like the third time we've gone, and there was a question raised, a legitimate question by Senator Hershey about whether this language about 2024 to 2026 was somehow tantamount to an authorization, which it's not. So I'll let Nathan explain, but no, it's, the language is on the condition and subject to us reauthorizing Empower next year when it's up for reauthorization. So I'll let Nathan clarify that point that was raised by Senator Hershey so that we could hopefully move forward
So
finally.
specifically with respect to the Empower program, which is established under Public Utilities Article 7-211, the bill in establishing a new section 7-211.1 includes that language about the 2024 to 2026 program cycle. but any actual extension of the Empower program would need to occur under the existing 7-211. So, as that was not exactly the most succinct, the change in the bill simply would authorize the continuation of the elements of 7-211.1 should 7-211 be amended to authorize the additional program cycle. I would note that currently, Senate Bill 528, the Climate Solutions Now Act, does reauthorize the Empower program for an additional cycle.
Yes, Senator,
Well, I'm not, okay, I'm not, well, obviously that hasn't become law. My understanding is that this is still subject to a reauthorize. It would have to come through this committee at some point to reauthorize Empower.
A specific amendment or a specific change to 7-211 would have to occur in order for the Empower program to be extended for another cycle.
So this target that we're talking about does not do that. I mean, I renew Senator Augustine's favorable motion and second it based on this clarification.
Senator Hershey?
Yeah, I would just agree that what Nathan had said. While I do think that the Climate Solutions Now bill may have authorized another 3 years, again, that hasn't passed on both sides yet. So I think that this bill is appropriate the way that it's written.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, is there a motion?
Yeah, we do.
Augustine motion.
Oh, we already have one.
Fourth time we've
Okay. Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand. Let's see if that works. All right, that's unanimous. All right, thank you.
Next bill is Senate Bill 526. As amended, the bill modifies the Offshore Wind Renewable Energy Credit, or OREC, mechanism under Maryland's Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard, or RPS. Instead of requiring each electricity supplier to purchase ORECs to meet the RPS requirements related to ORECs, the bill instead requires each electric company to meet the RPS requirement related to ORECs, and specifies that an electricity supplier must meet the RPS requirements for all Tier 1 and Tier 2 sources except offshore wind. The bill further requires the PSC to adopt regulations that establish a non-bypassable surcharge that allows an electric company to recover all costs associated with the purchase of ORECs from all distribution customers of the electric company. The amendments to the bill offered by Senator Feldman strike the bill as introduced and affects the bill as described and make technical changes and conforming changes, and finally strikes a provision related to offshore wind from sections related to RPS compliance by an electricity supplier, because those provisions would largely now no longer be necessary.
Okay, is there any discussion? Senator Hershey?
A completely different bill now? Is that what I'm understanding?
We have Katie, if Katie would want to, Katie's right.
No, we're not gonna.
Well, no, it's not. I don't think it's a different bill at all. It's, what's that? Yeah, I mean,
Accomplishes the same thing. by a
basically,
different
we're
mechanism.
just, trying to simplify the billing, and this is still the case. These amendments were, I think, for the most part, I'm just trying to, it's been a little while, who the collection agent is, and
No, I
really-
understood that.
yeah, go on.
The initial bill came in because ORECs are set by the PSC. So rather than the way RECs are normally handled through the market, so this made sense. There's just an awful lot of changes. You're telling me it does the same thing as when you brought the bill in, but just.
So the only opposition, I mean, they're really, because this is sort of how it's done in some other states, so I'm just looking at some notes here. The utilities didn't oppose it, they were looking for they didn't like the language in terms of, so Katie, who's in the audience, worked with the electric companies' legal teams to draft some new clarifying language to accomplish, my understanding is exactly the same goal. So basically, it's the same concept, but some clarifying.
Same goal, different wording.
Correct.
I know you all grew on this, and I would just ask the analyst, do you agree that it's not a problem, or that, and that it's accomplishing the same goal, but through different modalities?
I can't speak to whether it's problematic. That from the information that's been shared with me, the Public Service Commission remains neutral on the bill, the Energy Administration remains favorable, and that the electric companies were involved in the creation of this language.
Okay, so let's just try, all in favor, please raise your hand.
We don't have a motion.
Okay, all right,
We don't have a motion.
Well, I'll move favorable.
all right. Good, thank you.
Lack of a second.
Okay, all right, so that's unanimous.
The next bill is Senate Bill 557, which authorizes Baltimore County to establish by law the West Baltimore County Redevelopment Authority. There are amendments, if you would like me to.
You want to tell us what they are?
I certainly can. So the amendments strike provisions that would have authorized the county to delegate to the authority the power of eminent domain, prohibits the county from delegating the power of eminent domain to the authority, and authorizes the authority to make recommendations to the county on issues related to the county's power of eminent domain.
So it's been weakened significantly.
The bill's sponsor.
He wasn't going to get it out if he had left eminent domain in there, so.
But it is
But
shameful,
the
because
county- From my understanding, the reason why he took it out is because the county already has that authority, and they weren't willing necessarily to delegate it to the authority.
the county hasn't done anything for the last 45 years for those two legislative districts. I mean, absolutely nothing. Okay, all right. We'll have to take what we can get. It's better than nothing, and it's late. All right. Did somebody make a motion?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All in favor, please raise your hand. You with us? All right, thank you. That's unanimous.
You didn't take that up with the county executive, Madam Chair.
Oh,
The next bill is Senate Bill 655, which establishes an additional trigger to turn on extended unemployment insurance benefits for claimants when the extended benefits are fully funded by the federal government. The additional trigger is based on the average total unemployment rate in the state rather than the rate of insured unemployment as under current law. The bill also authorizes the Secretary of Labor to suspend the payment of extended benefits under specified circumstances, and the bill would take effect June 1, 2022. There was no opposition at the committee hearing.
all right. I can't hear you.
Nathan, confirm, this doesn't cost us anything because the federal government's going to take care of it, right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Did someone make a motion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Are we all together?
No.
All right, we're not. Then let's call the roll.
Okay, this is just favorable, correct? Senate Bill 655, favorable. Senator Feldman? Aye. Senator Klausmeyer?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Benson? Yes. Senator Kramer?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Hayes?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Reedy?
No.
No. Senator Augustine?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Vital? Yes. Senator Hershey?
No.
No. Senator Jennings?
No?
No. Madam Chair?
Yes, so that's 6-3. Well, how many of us are there? Yeah,
8-3.
8-3, okay.
Do you want?
Okay,
The next bill is Senate Bill 682. There are amendments, and it's reflected in the reprint before you. Senate Bill 682 is the Maryland Medical Assistance Program Gender Affirming Treatment. The bill requires, beginning January 1, 2023, that Medicaid provide coverage for gender affirming treatment in a non-discriminatory manner. By December 1st each year, beginning with in 2023, each Medicaid managed care organization must submit a specified report to the Department of Health. And by January 1st each year, beginning in 2024, MDH must compile an annual report on geographic access to gender-affirming treatment across the state. MDH and each MCO must include the name, location, and type of services offered by each provider offering gender-affirming treatment in their directories. The amendments add sponsors and further strike illustrative lists of procedures, adds intent language, prohibits the program from denying or limiting coverage based on an individual's gender identity, and prohibits the program from establishing a categorical exclusion for a particular gender-affirming treatment. There was no opposition at the committee hearing.
All right, Senator Hayes and Senator Reedy.
No, I don't have any questions.
All right, Senator Reedy.
Yeah, just a couple questions. Number one, I think the amendments, the good amendments on kind of, I spoke with the analyst beforehand. We narrowed down all the things listed in the bill, which is good. There was a lot of things listed in the bill. I think it's better to have broader terms. Question I would have is, does private insurance cover these items for people with private insurance or with a plan through their work or whatever?
Might depend upon the insurance.
I mean, I think my answer is, I think yes, if it's medically necessary.
Is there any real check on when someone says something's medically necessary?
Well, let me give you an example. I did have a family in my district that came to me because the little boy in about the 6th grade was being joked and about his anatomy. The child was born with one testicle instead of with two. So there are people that need gender-affirming medical services for all kinds of reasons, which is really on our business. People are born, they're in the world, they got a right to get the health care they need. And the school wasn't taking up for the boy, and they wanted him to have to shower with the other kids since he was on a little sports team. And he was really being harassed to the point he didn't want to have to go to school anymore. And they were trying to see what that was that cosmetically could make him look even more like the gender that was on his birth certificate in that case. But there are kids with all kinds of reasons why they would need gender-affirming treatments and so on. And it really brought home to me that a lot of us are so inclined to believe that everybody is born exactly the same and that people don't need medical treatment, that they don't need privacy, and they don't need whatever is necessary so they can lead a full life. All right, Senator Reid.
Madam Chair, what you just described sounds exactly like medically necessary, so no debate about that. That's already provided for under Medicaid. We're talking about Medicaid funded, and a lot of this stuff is cosmetic, and it sounds to me, based on the testimony, that the industry is moving to where they're going to declare lots and lots of things medically necessary that might not be considered medically necessary for anybody else.
Well,
And so, well, wait a minute. And that's fine, but I want to know if there's an opportunity for us to have an understanding of what's medically necessary to make some, like, I know one example of something that now under this bill could be considered medically necessary, could be something dealing with voices. Well, that makes a lot of sense. But we also had testimony about a lot of other cosmetic surgeries that you could argue is just someone wanting to reach a certain ideal of the way they would like to look as a gender. So I'm just raising the point. I know how this vote's going to go. I'm just raising the point. This is Medicaid funding. We already fund gender, a lot of things with hormone therapy and gender reassignment. That's already covered under Medicaid. This is expanding it to a lot of other things. So I don't think I'm going to support the bill. I'll leave it at that. I do think the amendments are good on it. Thank you.
Okay, is there any discussion on the motion? If not, since we already have been told some people aren't prepared to vote for it, so why don't we just call the roll?
Senate Bill 682 with amendments. Senator Feldman?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Klausmeier? Yes. Senator Benson? Yes. Senator Kramer? Yes. Senator Hayes? Yes. Senator Reedy? No. Senator Augustine? Yes. Yes. Senator Beidle? Yes. Yes. Senator Hershey? No. Senator Jennings? No. Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yes. Bill
All right,
passes
what's that, 6-9? 6-3, 8-3, okay.
The next bill is Senate Bill 719, which requires the Office of Home Energy Programs, or OHEP, within the Department of Human Services to develop a uniform redetermination process to be updated annually to assist eligible energy customers who are at least 65 years old in enrolling in energy assisted, this is Senate Bill 719.
It's further, third page.
Okay.
They're not in order.
The list reflects some late additions to the printout reflects some late additions to the voting list. OHEP must maintain certain records organized by county, including the number of households during the previous year that, one, that were eligible for redetermination, two, whose notice of redetermination process was verified and returned, and three, that were re-enrolled in the redetermination process. The information must be reported to the General Assembly by December 1st each year, and the department must adopt regulations to implement the bill. The amendments to the bill reduce from full-time to part-time, 2 positions that must be supported by an existing mandated appropriation under the Power to the People pilot program.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Not, if you're ready for the question, let's try. All in favor, raise your hand. All right, that looks unanimous.
The next bill is Senate Bill 782, which has amendments and there's a reprint in front of you. Senate Bill 782 establishes the work group on the post-COVID-19 crisis economic transition to be staffed by the Department of Legislative Services to make recommendations regarding how the state may adjust its economic development and other strategies in the context of changes resulting from crises in sectors as specified. The work group may retain the services of the University of Maryland, and $500,000 must be appropriated for that purpose. The work group is required to submit an interim report to the governor and the General Assembly by December 31st, 2022, and to submit a final report by December 31st, 2023. The bill takes effect July 1st of this year and terminates June 30th of 2024. The amendments add 5 members of the labor sector, including representatives of the healthcare industry, cybersecurity industry, restaurant industry, childcare industry, and multi-industry labor organizations to the task force.
Okay, what is your pleasure? Okay, is there a second? All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All right, if not, let's try. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, looks like that one is unanimous, I think. Oh, but Senator Klossmeyer has disappeared. All right, well, right now it's 11-2. Okay. What is it? 10-1.
The next bill is Senate Bill 911. There are no amendments and therefore no reprint. The bill changes the entity with which the Maryland Stadium Authority must enter into a written operating agreement.
Sometime you might need to let them finish saying what the bill does. Not everybody might remember. Okay, I'm still saying it matters.
I think Senator Hayes tried to move favorable once the hearing was over. It's pretty simple.
I didn't ask you to. I'm just saying to the analysts, I think it would make sense to be sure everybody's looking the right way.
Throw a bone to them.
Okay. 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 All right. All in favor, please say aye. All right. Okay, that one's unanimous. Okay, where are we now?
All right, the next bill on the voting list is Senate Bill 643. This is the bill that expands the Maryland Personal Information Protection Act. This is the state's law that requires businesses to protect personal information and notify individuals when there are data breaches. So the bill expands the act by broadening the personal information that's subject to its protections. It shortens timeframes within which businesses must notify individuals of data breaches, and requires businesses that have the necessary contact information to notify consumers about breaches directly instead of through substitute notice procedures. There's a reprint. I can walk through some of the details of the bill. On page 2, you can see that some of the additional information that's brought under the protections of the Act include a broader definition of health information, and also genetic information. Is everything okay? Okay. So on page 4, this is where we have the part of the statute that establishes a duty to protect data. It applies the duty to protect data to businesses that maintain personal information.
Thank you.
On page 5, this is the part of the law that addresses investigation and notification requirements on businesses when there are breaches. And the bill changes the trigger when a business is required to give notice of a breach. It shifts the default presumption in evaluating whether notification is necessary, so that likelihood of misuse of the data is presumed. And it also modifies the timelines for notifying an individual of a breach, so that it has to be done within 45 days of discovery of the breach, or when the business is notified of the breach. This is instead of 45 days after an investigation is completed. So it moves up the time frame within notice must be provided. Timelines for notifying consumers of breaches is the timeline for notification is also moved up for businesses that maintain personal information. Businesses that maintain personal information but don't own the data have an obligation to notify businesses that own it, and that timeline has been moved up to 10 days instead of 45. So on page 6, we have provisions that provide for a delay in delivering that notice when there's when there's an investigation concerning a law enforcement matter or a national security matter, or when a delay is needed to determine the scope of the breach. That's the law, and so these. So when you have that situation where the requirement to delay notice exists, once that circumstance resolves, a business has 7 days to notify the individual of the breach. But in any event, the amendment clarifies that the underlying 45-day notification threshold for informing consumers still applies under this circumstance of delayed notice if that 45-day period hasn't elapsed yet. So that 45-day period would apply. And then we have the provisions of the law that deal with how notice must be given. So, under the current law, notice must be given by written notice, email, telephone. And there was a provision that would allow a business to use substitute notice if there was a cost for providing notice, direct notice, that would exceed a certain threshold. This changes that, so it gets rid of this basis for substitute notice. So cost is no longer a consideration. Substitute notice can only be provided if the business does not have sufficient contact information to give notice in accordance with those other methods.
it's like the cable internet provider. So who are we talking about?
It'd be
Like
all
Senator
kind of
Roberts'
police.
example about the immediate part, or I'm just trying to understand.
To follow up on what Senator Reed is asking, I was wondering, for an example, you know, when you're on your computer or something and then stuff pops up and offers you ads for various things, they might end up with my data when I just check to see more about what it's about. I might not have subscribed to anything or done anything, but they might have some of my data then.
Right, well, it's hard to think through what circumstance it would be the case where business would have, you know, personal identifying information about you, but it may be the case that they would have, you know, like your password and your email, but they don't, or maybe they would, not the email, in that case, they would have that to notify you, but they might have some, you know, some information about your name or like an account number, but they may not have your phone number, they may not have an email address, they may not have a hard address, and so.
Sure we don't intentionally put something in the law that requires some business, and it's like, there's no real way they would have even known they had your, like, I guess they know if they have it.
Yeah, they know.
Mail, is that still in here? In most cases, it's mail?
I don't know if that's most cases, but that's certainly one of the options that's still available for a business to notify an individual about a breach if they have an address on file, yes.
I'll tell you why I'm concerned about it, is I had a breach this year. It was a very serious one, and I need it in writing. I guess it could have been an email. In my case, I had a letter that I could share with the police department and with my ID theft company. So it's important that you have documentation if you're going to make a claim and try to protect yourself. I mean, it was a mess. I had to go to all the credit bureaus and everything.
Yes, so there's no change to those methods of direct notice that's in current law. You know, the bill really changes the circumstances as to when a business can do the substitute notice.
Okay.
So really what this is, just adding an additional layer to say, hey, if you have any reason to, it says if you have some level of data on somebody and can't contact them, this is the ways that you should go about trying to let people know, which includes broadcast media, I see, and some other things.
That's right.
Okay.
And to that point, there are methods established in statute for how that substitute notice can be done, and one of those is modified by the bill. It used to be notification to statewide media. That's been changed to notification to major print or broadcast media in geographic areas where the individuals affected by the breach likely reside. So I think in some cases that the explanation there was that it may not be actually fitting to have a statewide notice if a breach is only affecting like the Eastern Shore or something. So that's the reason for the more precise nature of the notice.
But you might prefer it to be broad because people move rather than to make it more narrow.
Well, I mean, the way it reads is where it has to be done in geographic areas where the individuals affected by the breach likely reside.
All right, but it could,
This is secondary, though. This is just saying, just to be extra sure that you're. And then on the back, on page 7, it goes into how that notice what should be in that notice.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's listed.
all right, do we have a motion?
There's a couple things
Okay.
I'll run through too.
Okay.
So as Senator Reedy mentioned, the bill addresses what must be included in the notice. Actually, the current law does. There's one additional requirement, notice to the Office of the Attorney General. There's more specificity as to the information that must be included in that notice. The number of affected individuals, description of the breach, the system, when and how it occurred, steps the business has taken relating to the breach, the form of the notice that will be sent.
Which, if they're sending that to the media, it would be wise to explain to the public how they're taking steps. So that's
Right.
okay. All right.
And there's just a technical correction here for a miscitation. So that's, those are the amendments.
Okay.
A lot of these kind of bills, I was trying to understand what
I'll move favorable, Madam Chair.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Not all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, Senate Bill 734. This is a bill that initially would have established a primary care reform commission. The sponsor, Senator Lamb, has offered some amendments that would restructure the bill a bit so that it requires and you've got a reprint here, the bill would require the Maryland Healthcare Commission to provide an annual report to the Governor and General Assembly that includes an analysis of primary care investment, ways to improve the quality of and access to primary care services, and findings and recommendations. The bill requires the Healthcare Commission to form a work group to develop the report, interpret the results of the analysis, and make recommendations. Let me see if I can so there are some participants that the work group must include, but it's not exclusive, because it can include other interested stakeholders. There's some uncodified language at the very end. I guess I should flag that this report, the first report, must be due beginning in 2024. That's been pushed back a year. There's a definition of primary care that's been brought into the bill. And also, there's uncodified language that says that the Healthcare Commission, before they begin the analysis, they must establish a plan for the analysis and report after receiving input and agreement from participants in the work group as to the scope of and methodology for the analysis and report. And then this plan must be submitted to the General Assembly by December 1st, 2023. So they've got to do the plan first about how to do the analysis. And so
then get
that's
all of this public input about
correct.
format and all that stuff.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
Would you entertain a motion?
yes.
I would move unfavorable on this bill. This seems like a commission looking in search of something. Senator Hayes seconded my motion.
Yes.
Really serious problem. Have you tried,
It
has
is.
anybody here
It's a very
tried looking,
serious problem.
looking for a
Well,
primary
let's
care
vote on
doctor?
his motion and then we can vote again. Let's see what happens with his motion.
Let me explain.
Explain a little more.
So I agree, primary care, finding primary care doctor is an issue, it's an issue in my community. That's not what this says. It just says we're gonna put a commission together, and then those stakeholders on the commission are gonna discuss what the commission's gonna do. I just think we've passed a lot of commission and task force bills, and I just don't think, I'd like to see a little bit more of a refined focus on why we're having this. I'm not against finding out how to get more primary care doctors, but I don't think
Alright.
that's what the aim of the commission
Well,
is.
are you ready to vote on the motion that is before us? Did it get a second? Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. All right, so that motion dies. All right, is there another motion? Is there another motion? Anybody got one?
Well, is nobody gonna move, any motion?
Move the table,
Well, I'll move the bill.
Okay, I'll second.
All right, Vice Chair seconded. Any discussion on this motion? All right, obviously it won't be all in favor, so let's call the roll.
Senate Bill 734, favorable with amendment. Senator Feldman?
Aye.
Aye. Senator Klausmeyer?
Yeah.
Yes. Senator Benson?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Kramer?
We're on the favorable now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Hayes? No. No. Senator Reedy?
Yes, no, just kidding, no.
No. Senator Augustine? Yes. Yes. Senator Vital? Yes. Yes. Senator Hershey? No. No. Senator Jennings?
No more land bills.
No. Madam Chair?
Yes,
Hey,
Yes.
this is on the internet, man. I was probably watching you.
Bill passes 7-4.
yes, they can. Okay, all right, so that was 7-4.
7-4.
Okay.
Okay, Senate Bill. Next bill is Senate Bill 823. heard this bill yesterday. This makes technical and clarifying changes to contract filing and registration requirements relating to Pharmacy Services Administrative Organizations, or PSAOs. Among other changes, the bill removes a requirement that a PSAO file contracts between PBMs and PSAOs with the Maryland administration, and instead it requires that these contracts be included under the filing
Excuse me,
requirements.
we can't hear, so let's not talk over the analysts, okay?
Yeah, I will say that I think there was kumbaya on this bill, it modifies some of the filing requirements relating to this PSAOs, streamlines some of those.
Okay,
And there's an amendment.
823.
There's an amendment, changes the purpose paragraph and clarifies that the PSAOs are permitted to provide independent pharmacies an electronic or paper copy of certain information that they have to provide under some statutory disclosure requirements.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? If you're not all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, that looks like it's unanimous. Thank you.
And then heard this bill a little while ago. These, you've got some amendments here that, this is Senate Bill 874, State Highway Administration Pedestrian and Bicyclist Fatalities Infrastructure Review bill. And so the House has adopted some amendments that this reprint is matches. And what this bill does is it requires the State Highway Administration to conduct an infrastructure review of each pedestrian or bicyclist fatality that occurs on a state highway or at an intersection of a state highway and another highway or municipal street. Each infrastructure review must identify deficiencies in engineering, traffic control, and traffic operations, and appropriate corrective actions and crash countermeasures that are consistent with the Department of Transportation's best practices in the state's Vision Zero program. So the amendments streamline some of the requirements of the bill, which I think brings down the fiscal note. And there's some uncodified language that requires the state highway to publish the vulnerable road user safety assessment that's required under federal law. This report must be published on the SHA's website.
Okay. Senator Hayes?
What does it mean by municipal street? So it's not necessarily a state highway or under the authority of the state highway, it could be a local road as well?
It's when there's an intersection of a municipal street and a
Of a
state
municipal
highway.
street to a state highway?
Correct.
Got you, thank you,
All
appreciate
right,
it.
Senator Hershey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this does a study every time there's a fatal bike accident?
Right.
But it's only at these kinds of locations.
Okay.
Correct.
And then the last part you talked about was some type of analysis on whether or not some of these bike lanes should be where they are. Did you say that?
Yeah, so I think just the infrastructure review must identify deficiencies in engineering, traffic control, and traffic operations, and appropriate corrective actions and crash reduction countermeasures that are consistent with certain
So would that mean that
federal practices.
they should analyze why there's a bike lane on Route 50 going to Ocean City when cars are going by at 70 miles an hour?
That's the kind of thing that they would look at. If you look at page 3 of the bill,
Right.
bill, when they do this review, they must consider, for example, highway context,
Right.
and different modes of transportation using the highway.
And you got my vote then.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, that's unanimous. Thank you.
You run, yes, but you ride with traffic on your bicycle. Anyway, okay. If you go back to the first page of the yellow sheet, we're going down to, actually up to the top of the page. This is Senate Bill 420. This was heard a while ago. As introduced, the bill unless a parent or minor opts out, the Commissioner of Labor and Industry shall release information of a minor who has a work permit to organizations that request the information. These organizations would include employers and apprenticeship sponsors, educational institutions, and workforce development boards. The sponsor has offered amendments to the bill and sort of switches it around a little bit. And instead of the commissioner releasing the information, he specifies that this minor has to be at least 16 years old if they have a work permit. I think that's when you have a work permit anyway. And these organizations that you release it to have to be registered with the department. So that sort of clarifies that all these organizations have to be registered with the department. And then you go page 3 of the reprint. There's some more specifying language on 5 through 7. But I think the significant change in the bill is the department may release information relating to a minor only if a parent or guardian of the minor or the minor elects to allow the sharing information. And instead of requiring the parent, guardian, or minor to opt out, it requires them to opt in. So the commissioner would have to ask each parent and minor, each parent of the minor or the minor if they want to be part of this program where their information would be shared with these selected organizations.
So in order to get a work permit, the information that's being required by the entity that is running the program? No.
That's not how, the parents gets the work permit on behalf of the minor, just so they can do work because if you're under 18, you have to have a work permit. This takes it a little bit further and says if these organizations, which have to be registered with the department, request the information with the sponsor's intent is, if they were looking for people to hire, they would get this information, and then they could approach these people about hiring them for their job, to work for their organizations. Initially, it would have been, the department would have done this, and then if a parent or minor didn't want this information released, they would have to go in and say, I don't want this to happen. Now, before they have to opt in, so the commissioner would have to specify procedures, and they would have to notify everybody with a work permit that this is out there, and do you want to be a part of this? So he's sort of flipped it around.
Could they do it right online or something?
I don't know how they would, I don't know how it would be handled
Senator,
administratively. That's not addressed here.
It's been a few years since I had to get a work permit. Did you go through the guidance counselor at your school? Is that where you go?
That's where you used to
You can do it online?
I'm sure you can do.
That little green card? Yeah.
Little green card.
It was like a.
Wait a minute, let's talk one at a time. Senator Reedy has the floor. Senator Reedy has the floor. Okay.
I think,
Okay. Go ahead, Justin, you can take the rest of my question.
No, go ahead, Senator Jennings, I defer.
Not,
I was just gonna ask, I thought the sponsor said to me something along the lines with the work permit that you get it online, but then they send a report to the school?
I don't really know.
Oh, okay.
Do you know?
I've
She knows.
Yeah.
been in college for a while, but when I was in high school, about
she just
4 or
didn't know
5
she
years
was-
ago, you just had you could get it from the counselor, but if you got it online, the counselor still had to sign off because their
The one thing we don't know is if that was a system-wide or a statewide thing or just what your high school was doing. So, okay, so what is it that he's trying to accomplish that doesn't exist now? What is he trying to improve?
If you listen to his testimony and read it, he's trying to get more folks he's trying to match up kids who want to work with employers who need people.
Right.
I bet that if you want to summarize what he's trying to do, and this sponsor has a series of other bills in that, are all going along that same line.
Senator Hayes.
I'm looking at Department of Labor website, and it says that minors 14 through 17 can apply for a work permit, but this is at 16. This would only qualify.
Probably because of these, the nature of the information that would be released, a phone number, a home address.
Right. And just, I know people have raised questions about it, but you can actually apply for it online. To the second question of where does it go to the guidance counselor, I'm not sure. But they do have a link whereas you could apply online statewide for.
I'm trying to see what is a benefit over the status quo.
So, as the sponsor explained in the testimony, there's a lot of folks that's out trying to hire people. They're looking for people to hire. And there's a group of individuals, young people, who are able to work, but they may or may not know what opportunities may await them, whether there's apprenticeships or other opportunities. And so this gives those who have jobs and want to hire people a list of individuals that are wanting to work. It just provides greater opportunity for people to have access to work opportunities.
All right, Senator, okay, fine.
All right, do we have a motion?
All right.
I'll move favorable.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Yes, Senator Benson.
Yes, you know, I worked in the Summer Youth Employment Program for a number of years. And in order for those youngsters, even if they were 16 years old, 14, 15, 16, they had to have a work permission that was signed by the counselor in the high school. That was the process. And I'm just kind of concerned now as to whether or not this is going to take that process out of the loop.
All existing processes are maintained. This is about those folks who have work permits, them willing to, those who have the work permit, the parent, on behalf of the minor, are willing to share their name, home address, and telephone with employers who are registered with the department based on how this reads, in order for the purpose of hiring these minors.
Okay, all right. All right. We got a motion and a second. I see two. Senator Reedy, do you have a question?
Just a clarifying question. So I actually like this idea, but I do understand the concern about personal information. So the way it's been amended, you can opt in can the young person opt in, or do they have to get a parent to opt in, or how does that work?
The way it reads is, the parent actually has the work permit, but it says, the department may release information relating to a minor only if the parent or guardian of the minor or the minor elects to allow the sharing of the information. That would be the,
It's a 16-year-old.
I know.
The kid can drive.
All right, Senator
He can decide if he wants to go
Augustine.
to work.
So, also, let's just think about it this way, folks. Senator?
Let's be
Senator?
reasonable. Let's listen.
Think about it this way, though. If you recall what the sponsor talked about, which of course I have this happening now too, when my kids took standardized tests, they then, which would indicate that they're interested in college and stuff like that, well, all of a sudden, we receive lots of information at our home about different schools that is telling us about, these different opportunities. And so what the sponsor was simply trying to get at was a youngster has indicated a desire to work, and they've got their work permit. And so we're trying to match. So let's say then, hey, they're interested in working. Let's see if they're interested in apprenticeship programs and different things like that. And that's all that he was trying to do. And now he's limited. I think he heard some of our concerns about all this stuff and made it an opt-in instead of the
It's opt-in. So let me ask though, the only people this information is going to are relevant job opportunities, right?
That's my understanding.
That's my understanding. No, I was for it until, I was more
That is
for it
my
until like 5 minutes
understanding,
ago,
and it's
so I
just
think I'm
trying to-
okay. I
It's just
wanna-
trying to make it sort of akin
Got it,
to
okay.
when a kid, takes the SAT and
Because
starts getting all this stuff.
when your young man or young lady takes the SAT, they don't start getting offers from like random like ads. It's for colleges or for.
Yeah, but there's some of them are random.
Gotcha.
I'm just
okay.
telling you.
Yeah, okay, no, that's
I'm
fine. All right.
They're all over.
No, I'm fine. I think I'm gonna vote for it.
Let's talk one at a time. Okay, Senator Hayes.
Given Senator Reedy's comments, it might be important. David read to us some of the amendments, and one of the amendments limits this to employers who are registered with the Department of Labor.
That's right.
Is that what
okay.
I heard you
Then
say?
I'm good. I'm
yeah,
good. if that's
in order for this information, every one of these entities has to be registered with the department.
Okay, so I think that's the protection we're looking for. All right, is there a motion?
Yeah, we have one in a second.
was a
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. If you're in favor, raise your hand. Zero is up, Senator Newman. All right.
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is one of those, just if I can explain real quick. This is one of those things, I think that it's a very good idea. I think the title of the bill is just a bad title. And unfortunately, when you get into sharing information of minors, it just does not read well. So if the bill was named something different, then maybe,
Do
but
you want to amend the title?
I'd like to, but we've all been, well,
I think you can amend anything.
a few of
you
us been
can-
sitting over here and trying to
If you can amend more substantive things.
determine what that might be, but
All right.
Just strike where it's, just say employment of minors, work permits. So if you work on an amendment from the floor.
Okay, all right. All in favor with the proviso that we might have an amendment coming from the committee regarding name change?
Something like that.
Okay,
Give a Kid a Job Act of 2022.
all right, let's just be, are you with us or not? Okay, that's unanimous.
Opportunities for work, I mean, why can't we just have David work from that and give us a title? So that we don't have to have kind of the mess
All right,
on the
but,
floor.
All I'm, I'm fine, I'm fine. Is that okay, David? All right, and the vote has been unanimous. Okay, all right, thank you. Okay. Okay.
Solutions Act.
Well, okay, don't help him right now, okay.
Okay. All right,
Senator Hershey get a job act.
What's next,
all right, now we are on Senate Bill 548 that was held from the other day. You've got a packet with you, in front of you, and there's some amendments attached. Briefly to go over the bill again, it concerns the circumstances for removing a local health officer. They would no longer serve at the pleasure of the local governing body, and it specifies the circumstances for removal. They have to be provided written notification. It establishes an appeal process. The sponsor had some amendments which clarify the appeals process, provides timeframes, and it also, these employees, as I mentioned the other day, or was this yesterday? Or the other day, these employees are in the state personnel management system, they're in a management service, and as a management service employee, they have limited appeal rights. Since this bill has its own appeal process here, it says that the existing appeal rights with the amendment would not apply to local health officers. And there's an amendment, there's actually two amendments, but I think Senator Reedy would prefer to take the top amendment in your package first. And his amendment works along with the sponsor's amendment, but I'll go through, if you open up the reprint, what Senator Reedy proposes doing is striking, if you go to page 2. He strikes lines 25, beginning with 4, onto the next page. So he strikes out the reasons for termination. And then he just basically says, he leaves everything else, well, other than subject to the reasons of paragraph 1. Everything else is left, so it would be they have to give a basis for the removal, documentation for supporting the removals. All the reasons for all the information would have to be provided to local health officer is retained, but the reasons for termination are struck from the bill.
Madam Chair.
Okay, Senator Reedy?
So just to try to put a fine point on it, I understand some of the concerns raised at the hearing regarding someone gets terminated, it's not clear that there's a public and official appeals process. There's not any sort of justification for removal, any of that. So I think the second half of the bill makes some sense as a good reform moving forward. I have a lot of concerns, and I think they mirror Mako's concerns and some others about saying you pretty much can't get rid of a health officer unless they've done some pretty serious bad things. There's a lot of times you could have a shift in a personality difference or a philosophical difference that would necessitate a health officer and a county government making a change. We do elect county governments to make these kind of decisions, whether it's a county executive or a county commission form of government. So I thought it would be better to get rid of that, but leave in place a more robust process for if there is a dispute, like we heard about, there's a process going back and forth. And so I don't want to use a bazooka to kill a gnat, though. So I think the first part of the bill is just too much. You could end up with a situation where, you know, they're health officer for life, you know, and anyway, so that's.
Strike the part of the bill that's overly, that
Right.
says you can't get rid of.
If you remember, Madam Chair, the last election, there was a lot of upsetness about the Board of Elections. But people said, well, can't we hold the administrator accountable? I'm not making comment on whether it was her fault or not. But the General Assembly many, many years ago passed a law to say you can't pretty much ever get rid of the election administrator. So I think it's important to have it say you still have the elected officials are ultimately accountable, but then there should be an appeals process. There should be a very clear process after something happens. So I would move the amendment and ask for support.
Okay, Senator Augustine.
Yeah, first of all, I would second that amendment. I mean, I looked at this situation, and the county health officer has really broad responsibilities and powers. And I was talking with one of the folks about it, and he was trying to explain about, this is a case like for environmental health services and, talking about septic systems and, his desire to, enforce certain ways with septic systems that were and that the county wanted to develop in a way, and they had their county development plan, what they were trying to do with, and he just disagreed with it because he thought that this other part was more important. And I just got a problem with that. I mean, I think there needs to be an opportunity for accountability for certain. There needs to be an opportunity for appeal for certain, but I think that this is the right balance.
Okay. Now, are you saying, maybe if we're going to do the work right now, and we're doing fairly well, or do you want to decide what needs to be struck? The part. Oh, he has it. Okay, then that's fine. And, all right, so it's been moved and you've seconded. All right, any discussion on the motion? Yes.
I now worry whether or not we need the bill.
Oh, well,
That's the question now. If you take out what has been suggested, do we need a bill?
I want to speak on that.
Because it seems to me that the same process is going to stay in place.
No, it's not. I think we do, because the good part is, I
the
agree
bill.
that the appeal process, which is not there in case the person is terminated, is on the bill, which I think is appropriate, and it does provide an additional protection for the health officer. I think we still do need the bill.
So in other words, I think we're saying that sometimes there is a legitimate reason to get rid of the health officer, but if so, you want the protections and the criteria that are in the second part of the bill. But but you don't want to automatically say they're there for life or as long as they want to work, no matter what. Okay. All right, now Senator Hayes.
No, to respond to Senator Benson, also, David in his explanation explained, there is already an appeal process for management employees. This bill defines a separate appeal process of accountability to make sure that those people are protected. So there's still some need to provide for those protections, which are outlined in this bill right now.
That's where I am. That because I have seen situations occur, I mean, that they just, and a lot of it has to do with politics.
Yeah.
Let's put the cards on the table.
Yeah.
That's usually what happens.
So your colleagues are saying that they're satisfied with
got
the
it.
criteria regarding that?
I've got it.
Okay,
Based off my county, Hartford County.
okay.
They they let the officer go. I still don't know. I've asked.
Okay,
I've gotten zero answers of why they fired this guy.
all right. So we've got,
Just on Amendment 1, though, Senator Reedy has 2 amendments. It's
okay,
just the
what's the
first amendment,
second? You got another? All right, let's vote on the First Amendment. All in favor, please raise your hand. If you're for the amendment that has been described, the Reedy Amendment. Senator Battle, is your hand up or down? No, my hand's not up. All right, so then that one is 10-1. Okay, now, what is the Second Amendment?
If it's all right, I'll explain the issue, and then I'm gonna, I recognize I'm not gonna probably get 2 amendments on this bill. Can I just, can I have like 1 minute just to explain?
Well, hurry, go ahead.
I had this other amendment, which I will draw up, that I'm not gonna offer, and I appreciate the committee's support on the other amendment. I am concerned that a lot of our counties don't have a very clear process that you can find easily for citing people from the health department and then helping them know what's the process that they then can follow to, like, why are they being cited, what's the regulation in law, and what's the appeal process. So I had an amendment that I wanted to draw up. Some counties have one, but a lot of counties it's not clear.
But it sounds like that might be a different subject.
It is,
probably
and
needs its own
so
bill.
if we didn't get the other amendment, I was gonna say, look, if you're gonna put the person in charge for life, let's at least have a clear appeals process. But I'm not gonna withdraw, I'm not gonna offer that amendment.
All right, Senator Feldman.
I just wanted to also add, I don't know, I think Senator Lamb probably handed this to everybody in the committee maybe, but that this letter from the local health officers to Delegate Pendergrass, looks like they're putting on their website a bunch of stuff right now, starting May 1st, to do, I'll give you this, yeah, I think doing basically everything you just said. So he told me your amendment wasn't necessary because of this letter. So anyway.
I have a feeling if there hadn't been legislation.
No, that's probably true. I agree with that, so.
That's great. So
okay.
no need for the amendment.
All right, now Senator Bidle.
Thank you. So, it's my understanding, or I thought we heard, that the county council and the county executive, or whoever the executive is, should have to have a public hearing. I don't see that in the bill. And then the part about publicly heard, it's in front of the secretary. The health secretary doesn't hire the health officer, the county hires the health officer, so. They hire jointly. But only the secretary's gonna have the hearing, and it's not gonna be public. I'm
I
on
don't
line
think
23,
everybody
page 3.
that has a personnel problem are going to have necessarily a public hearing.
These were amendments offered by Senator Lamb, actually.
Okay, these are Senator Lamb's
Yeah.
amendments. Okay, thank you. I'll be quiet.
Okay. All right, are we straight on that bill? Okay.
We gotta take a vote on it.
Take a vote on
Oh, we didn't vote. All right, on the bill as amended. All in favor, please raise your hand.
That was on the amendment.
All right, that looks like it's unanimous. Where did Hershey go? Well, it's at least, okay, okay. Tyndall right now, you can ask him.
Okay, and the next bill was not laid over, but held from the other day. This is Senate Bill 565. This is the price gouging bill. Yes. And again, you have several amendments that are attached. You didn't get to the point to address some of the amendments that were offered by other senators. The only amendments that were considered or that were read to you the other day were amendments from the sponsor. So very quickly, again, if there's a state of emergency declaration by the governor, specified goods and services as specified in the bill cannot be sold at a price that is 10% higher than 60 days before the declaration. The 10% limit generally holds for 90 days after the emergency for reconstruction services, and the 10% may be waived by the Attorney General based on a complaint if supplier costs or related costs result in the 10% increase. So those are there's a couple changes made as a result of a meeting that the Attorney General had with opponents of the bill, but I wouldn't say that all these changes were supported by opponents of the bill. But probably the most significant change is that the Governor can, when they issue the emergency proclamation, choose to exclude the listed items on pages 2 through 3 of the bill. So these are the items that can't be price gouged under the bill. But but when the governor issues their order, this would give the governor the ability to select, to exclude any one of these items from the, that would not be subject to price gouging. And any violation would be subject to the unfair and deceptive trade practices of the Attorney General under commercial law article.
Let me ask a question. So at every commercial entity selling any of these, once you have one of these emergency management declarations, then for all of those separate places, they've got to keep their prices as they were 10 days before the...
60 days before the declaration of the state of emergency, these items can't increase the price of these items more than 10%, unless there's a reason.
That's from 60 days before.
Yes.
Which, now, is this like it's retroactive? In other words, you declare the date of emergency on June 30th, and you say anything you did that moved any of these prices up at your store or your entity, 40 days before, 8 days before, that's illegal? I'm trying to understand.
I wouldn't, it's not illegal, it's just if somebody complains that they bought something for a lot higher price than they did, then the Attorney General would investigate and determine whether they're just trying to rip people off or whether there's legitimate reasons for this price
It would
increase.
seem to me it would need to be a lot closer to the date in which the emergency is declared, rather than to go back 2 whole months before.
I would imagine, I guess we're being joined by Steve.
You want to help us out, Sakamoto?
Madam Chair, the comparison is to the highest price that the retailer charged during that 60-day period. So it wouldn't be just any price within the 60-day period.
Okay.
But the comparison is to the highest price. And then if your prices are going up by more than 10% because your costs went up by more than 10%, then there's no violation.
Okay.
So,
So there's a declaration of emergency.
right,
And I can't go up more than
10%
10%
above
more
what
than
the
what?
highest price you charged.
the highest
The prior
price.
60
All right, that's
days.
different, because I thought it said any price.
No, it's the
okay,
highest price.
All right, Woody, all right. Yeah. All right, I see 2 hands. I was calling on Jennings, then I'll go to Harris.
So with the request, the
All right,
cost.
we're gonna talk one at a time.
So-
I have recognized, Senator Augustine, I've recognized Senator Jennings and then Senator Hayes. Okay.
So let's just use round numbers. So this bottle of water, let's say we sell it in our little store here. We've been buying them for $1, we sell them for $2. From April through May, that's what we bought them, sell them. We have a hurricane wipes out, and all of a sudden, the price for me to buy this bottle now jumped to $4. So for me to make the same margin, I'm gonna sell it for $5. But according to this, I've tripped it. But you're saying you're gonna come back and say, well, wait a minute, your cost of that went up. Are you strictly looking at the cost of the product or the cost of goods sold? Because
Well,
for me to keep the business open, my price might have gone through the roof, you know.
Well, the amendment that was offered by the sponsor would include cost of goods sold as one of the factors we would look at.
Okay, so you're gonna look at everything. So even if I'm still being able to buy this for $1, but the fact that I'm having to pay to have generators there to run
Yep.
electricity,
Well,
I've had to
you-
hire other people.
Right. I mean, those would all be factors we take into consideration. We're just trying to look for the people that are really just trying to rip people off and take advantage of a situation.
Okay.
Okay, now, wait a minute, I called on Hayes next, then I'll call on Hershey. All right, as I see
Thank
the
you,
light.
Madam Chair. David, can you help me understand, on page 2 and 3, you explained to us that the governor may exclude any of these items, but as I look at number 13, it says, and any other, does the governor also have the leeway to add items that aren't included here?
That's
Or
what
am I
it's
reading it
saying.
wrong? So he would, in that case, he would have the authority to exclude things or add things that aren't included here.
If they're
I would,
designated
you could
as
interpret it to say that he could add other things that aren't specifically enumerated on this list.
Gotcha. Okay, I just wanted that clarity. Thank you.
All right, now, who did I said Hershey next, and then Feldman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. While Stephen's here, just walk me through how this actually works.
Okay, so we had during the pandemic, the legislature temporarily gave us price gouging authority. When we got a complaint from somebody that, XYZ store is, charging me 10 times what they were charging, before the pandemic, our office would then, send a letter to that business saying, we got this complaint that you're charging, can you, show us, that your cost went up and that's why you're charging this, or have some other, legitimate explanation. And, if they came up with the explanation, we'd drop it. If not, it would be, referred possibly for an investigation.
So how many complaints did you guys have?
We had, I think, over 1,000 complaints during the pandemic regarding price gouging.
And what do you, and how many, when you went through this process to make the now the retailer has to prove to you guys what their costs were. They have to put all that information together. And when you did all that, how many did you find out were price gouging?
We only found a handful that, were price gouging at the retail level, but we found a number where, it appeared that the price gouging was occurring at the wholesale level, and the law that was in effect didn't give us the authority to go after the wholesaler. This bill would give us that authority to take a look at the wholesaler and see if that's where the gouging is really occurring.
So you saw a handful at the retail level.
Right,
Okay. It appeared that they could be at the wholesale level.
right.
And let's say you found them at the wholesale level. I mean, the wholesaler could be anywhere, right?
It could be, but if they're doing business in Maryland or know that they're selling to a Maryland business, then we would have authority to look at that.
Right, but a wholesaler could be out of the state of Maryland.
They could be, but if
Right.
they're doing business in Maryland, we would have authority.
So you still have the ability to look at them, and they would then have to prove to the state of Maryland why their costs went up to justify their wholesale price?
Correct.
And you were not able to look at any of these?
Not under the law that was, in effect during the pandemic.
Okay, and then let's say that you found out that you didn't like their reason on why the price went up, right? I mean, it's subjective?
It's not subjective. I mean, there are factors that are set forth in the statute of, defenses as to why your cost went up. So, I mean, if one of those factors was met, like the cost of goods sold, as Senator Jennings mentioned, or
So they
the
simply
wholesale prices went up and that's why the retail prices went up, and there are a bunch of other factors. So if those factors are established, then, that's it, it's resolved. If we either don't get a response or the response doesn't show, a legitimate basis for raising the prices, then we would, conduct an investigation.
And then what happens?
And then we could bring charges against somebody who's in violation of the law.
And then what happens?
And then they would, if they're found.
What happens to the person that made the complaint? Do they get their money back?
I mean, that would be one factor, yeah, the person would be able to get, a refund.
Who would
But there
provide
also
that
possibly-
refund?
What?
Who provides that refund?
Well, we would either try to get that through our mediation process, or if the mediation is unsuccessful, then if we brought in action, we could order restitution, we could order penalties, we could order injunctive relief to get the, the business to stop violating the law.
Okay, it sounds like an awful lot of work for a handful
But we don't know.
of complaints that you found were actually valid, so.
All right, Senator Feldman and
Well,
then Senator Kramer.
I just go, I mean, my thing is, almost all our bills, it's always have proponents made the case that this is a problem that requires us to step in, and it's not obvious to me that like this was a big problem during the COVID. So, I mean, I'm just listening. I mean, I'm saying that's like the threshold issue, for any bill is, is there a problem that's been identified and does this problem solve it? And I'm just saying, Steve, it's, I don't know if that case has been made that this was a big problem that the legislature needs to kind of inject itself, but that's just my 2 cents.
In poor neighborhoods it was, all right, I
Well,
call on Kramer next, and then Klossmeyer and Vital.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So, Steve, I'm kind of on the same wavelength that the vice chair is at the moment, and I'll be honest with you. My experience with the office as it relates to the enforcement of all that hard work that went into the laws to protect consumers from the puppy mill industry. The Attorney General's office moved at glacier speed, and I'm looking at this and thinking, all of the things that I heard, well, we don't have the resources, we don't have this, we don't have that, we have to do this investigation, we have to do that investigation. Meanwhile, months go by, those months turn into years, and I'm looking at this and thinking, so you find somebody who was operating a convenience store in a community, and, you know, they increase the price on bleach because it was hard to find during the pandemic. And then by the time all of this takes place, meanwhile, whatever the issue was has subsided, the prices come back down again to reflect what's happening currently. And I just got to say, my experience with the office leaves me thinking that this may not, at the end of the day, be quite the answer that I think that it's portrayed to be. So I'll just put that out there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I've called on Senator Klossmeyer and then Senator
Thank you,
Battle, and then
Madam
I'd
Chair.
like to speak.
I just want to ask David, did you got my amendment? So we haven't,
We haven't even got that.
We haven't even
Okay.
gotten those yet.
Amendments from the sponsor.
okay.
Okay, Senator Battle?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The reason that I'm co-sponsor on this bill and the reason I got involved was about hospitals, about medical equipment, PPE, and particularly staffing services. So in the hospital, I serve on a board of a subsidiary of University of Maryland. Cost for agency nurses went to $200 an hour, and we were down 25%. So here we were staffing 25% of our nurses at $200 an hour. But it wasn't the nurses that were making the money. The nurses were getting paid what they always got paid, which is significant when you work with an agency. But the agency, the staffing agency, was making all the money. And I don't care if you strike everything from the bill except on page 2, items 4, 5, and 6. That's why I'm in this bill, and that's what's important. Thank you.
Okay. All right, wait a minute now. I did say I was going to speak next, and then I'll call you next. In my district, I've got people that are fairly wealthy, people in the middle, and people that are clearly struggling. And in where the little 7-Elevens and the little stores were that those people who don't have private transportation went to get things, they had prices that were to the point, some of them couldn't even buy toilet tissue. They carried up the cost so high. So I have seen it. I would say that considering that they're not going to bring a hammer down on everybody, if they can prove that somebody price gouged them, their wholesaler or something, they can intervene to stop that. But when you think about everybody going through an emergency and the people who have the least finding, and they don't have great transportation, they can't go all over the place. They were working, many of them were essential workers, and they had to work extra long hours, and they weren't getting more, so it was a problem. All right, now, who did I said Senator Benson, then Senator Augustine.
Madam Chair, you just said what I felt like saying, but in addition to that, the $200 nurses, the agencies, the nurses that work regularly in the hospital don't get that kind of money. So you have two groups of nurses being paid different.
No.
It's terrible. It's happening all over the state of
No,
Maryland.
but the nurse didn't get it.
Senator Benson, number one, those agency nurses are moving from hospital to hospital, so they don't have the security of knowing where they're gonna work all the time, and they don't have the benefits that a nurse that's employed by a hospital makes. Those nurses that employed by hospitals have pensions and health care. Agency nurses don't have that. So there's differences in that. But in this, my point is the staffing agency's making the money, not the nurse that's in the hospital working.
Okay, Senator Augustine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I obviously know this was a unbelievable circumstance, and there were so much supply problems, okay? But it was supply problems, and it was across the entire country. I mean, and that drove up costs. It wasn't necessarily a situation of gouging if someone has to purchase things at a much higher price, including nurses, by the way, where you're having to hire, you're hiring. And so I just find it to just be very difficult to sort of figure out how this thing works. I also find 10% to be very arbitrary also. I mean, just as a business person, I find that to be very arbitrary. And so I really do struggle with this, particularly given what this was, which was a supply problem.
Well, if I'm understanding the bill, the Attorney General isn't going to automatically say you did something wrong. If they get and they're not out with an army of folks looking for anybody. If they get a citizen that files a complaint with them because it seems unusual or really out of reach where they are needing essentials, they're going to investigate. That's what he said.
Well,
You
initially,
might find, he said earlier, that it isn't at the retail level, that maybe it was in the supply chain. Now, so I don't think it hurts us to give them the ability to look at it. If during an emergency, you had something, and maybe you might want to raise a little bit more than the 10%, make it 15% more than it was or something. But, okay, Senator Hershey.
Too many comments. I don't think that there's any confidence that this is going to work the way that it's supposed to. There's too many, concerns about supply and demand. I don't even know if this really handles the exact issue that was brought up about nurses. I mean, somebody's going to, complain about that. We've seen that it would take for months and months and months, and there's really no restitution at all for this. I mean, maybe somebody comes back and after months of study, they can, make some type of restitution if they're able to sue somebody. I just think that in the situation that we've seen for the worst possible time when this could occur, to have only seen 1,000 cases, out of everything that was bought during this time, there was only 1,000 complaints.
But we don't know that.
That's what Steve just said.
He said that's what got to them. The
That's
average
what- that's
person
the
doesn't
1,000
know we got an attorney
That's
general.
that's the 1,000 complaints. So, Madam Chair, I would move unfavorable on this.
Okay, we've got a motion. The motion is unfavorable. All right, Senator Clark.
No, I just want to say I agree with Senator Augustine when he said the prices of everything went up because if you needed wood, it had to come from further away than it came here, and everybody was using the wood. So I don't know that's price gouging or not, and I agree with Senator Hershey. I don't know.
Okay. Well, we've got a motion in front of us for unfavorable. All in favor of the unfavorable, raise your hand. All right, since it's not unanimous, let's call the roll.
Senate Bill 565, unfavorable. Senator Feldman? Aye. Senator Klausmeier?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Benson?
Pass.
Pass. Senator Kramer?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Hayes?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Reedy?
Yes, on the unfavorable.
Yes. Senator Augustine?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Beidle?
No.
No. Senator Hershey?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Jennings?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Benson?
No.
No. Madam Chair?
No.
No.
Okay, so the bill goes down. All right.
On your list is Senate Bill 708. Senate Bill 708 establishes a compliance officer in the Office of the Inspector General of the State Health Department. The officer must comply It's there to look, make sure that the Maryland Department of Health complies with healthcare, public health, government administration best practices, and also the laws that govern the health department and its regulations. It adds additional powers to the Inspector General and the compliance officer, and also requires an audit 90 days after the Maryland Department of Health issues an emergency procurement. The sponsor has offered amendments to the bill, and at the last minute, I got some additional amendments, and so you'll see in the reprint you have, if you go to page 2, he's made some changes to how of some of the powers and the duties of the newly installed compliance officer. First, on line 10, you'll see that the compliance officer shall be appointed by the Inspector General. It specifies it can be designated by the Inspector General. So in other words, if somebody in the IG office, if the IG wants to take one of their own employees and make them the compliance officer, they can. The bill also gave the compliance officer the same powers as the Inspector General. The amendments would strike that and leave the existing, only the Inspector General would have the authority to investigate additional instances of behavior regarding the department. And it also, wherever it says Inspector General and Compliance Officer on page 3, it strikes Compliance Officer. The new language added specifies that the Inspector General has 7 days to investigate a complaint it receives and the reasons why, if they can, and provide reasons why they can investigate. And an additional change from the sponsor is to say a preliminary assessment. Instead, it's going to be a preliminary indication. So these are the amendments offered by the sponsor. And again, the end of the bill says that within 90 days after the Maryland Department of Health awards a emergency procurement, there has to be an audit of that procurement.
Okay, what is your pleasure?
To create a new position.
Let's
Yes.
talk so we can all hear.
It has additional items for the Inspector General to look at regarding activities within the department, and it creates a compliance officer who can work with the Inspector General, but it doesn't give the compliance officer all the power the Inspector General has.
Right, but the compliance officer is a new position.
It can be somebody, the intent of the sponsor is it can be somebody within the
organization.
Yeah, within the organization.
And what prevents the Inspector General from investigating this now? Because we gave pretty broad powers, what was it, last year? That we added an Inspector General to the Health Department? Was it 2 years ago? Yeah, what prohibits the Inspector General from investigating this now?
We need to talk with our mics, and we need to, the public is entitled to overhear our deliberations, and we need to be able to hear each other. All right, so if there, Senator Clausen.
No, I just say it may have been 3 years ago when we got the Inspector General, because he came into my office, and for the past 2 years, nobody's been in my office, so.
All right, so what is your pleasure?
No, okay, I'm going to second the favorable, that's all I'll say.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second, favorable. Okay. Are you ready for the question, or is there any discussion? All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. Oh, it's Senator Hershey.
I just didn't think that we were able to determine in our conversation that this was necessary, so.
Don't I get a hold on one bill? Do we get a hold?
No, motion, there's a motion out there.
Okay, favorable, okay.
You can withdraw your motion.
All right.
Are we voting tomorrow? Are we voting tomorrow?
We don't know what we're doing and the way things are going right now.
Yeah, let's hold this till tomorrow, because I got some mixed signals on this.
All right.
Okay, the second to last bill is from Senator Beidel. It extends the nursing home CON exemption for CCRCs to CCRCs that are also home health agencies. So as I understand how this works is you're you know, your CCRCs are currently exempted from having a CON because, if they have a nursing home. There's a particular CCRC that is operating as a like a CCRC, but they don't actually have a facility. They go into individuals' homes and they perform the same duties. They want exempted from the home health CON for that purpose. And along the lines with that exemption, and the House bill is already over here, since this group is operating a little bit differently, they want exemptions from the certain requirements under the Department of Aging which actually regulates CCRCs regarding the number of subscribers they have to get a certificate to operate. So for these particular CCRCs that are providing in-home services, they wouldn't have to have the same requirements regarding number of subscribers, but they would have to maintain at least a bond of $1 million and hold in escrow all their entrance fees.
Yeah. Okay, and I would say my husband's home right now getting services from an organization like this. We are paying dearly, and there's a lot of trouble, and I have to stay on them all the time to be sure, yeah. Okay, Senator Hayes. All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. Is that everybody? All right, well, everybody that's here. So it looks, you want to be a sponsor? Yeah, I'm sure you.
Senator Beidel with a bill that everybody wants. Does the whole committee want to be co-sponsored? Yes.
Yeah, let's put us all on. Okay.
And the very last bill on your list is Senate Bill Nathan has an additional one. Senate Bill 926. The sponsor is requesting that you hold this bill. I think he has an additional amendment.
Which one?
926.
Okay.
Senate Bill 926.
And they all
And
want to be a
Nathan has an
sponsor.
additional, something else to bring to your attention.
All right.
Just circling back around to one that is on the list, and that's Senate Bill 554 from Senator Patterson. So as amended by the amendments offered by Senator Patterson and as shown in the reprint, Senate Bill 554 establishes first the New Start Grant Program within the Department of Labor, and second, the New Start Micro Loan Program within the Department of Commerce. The purpose of the grant program is to provide grants to at least 5 organizations to create or support existing entrepreneurship development programs and provide assistance to covered individuals. A covered individual is defined under the bill as an individual convicted of a crime who has completed a term of imprisonment or is released for the purpose of participating in a training program and who meets specified offense eligibility requirements. The microloan program is intended to provide loans to covered individuals participating in eligible entrepreneurship programs funded under the New Start Grant Program. Loans issued under the program may not exceed $50,000. The bill establishes the microloan program fund to provide loans and prohibits the department from using more than 10% of the fund for administrative costs. Bill specifies annual reporting requirements for organizations that are awarded grants, and the Departments of Commerce and Labor must adopt regulations to carry out the requirements. The amendments substantively alter the definition of covered individual to include an individual released for purposes of participating in a training program as described, reorganizes the programs established under the bill, situating the grant program in the Department of Labor rather than the Department of Commerce, and making other conforming changes.
All right, do we? All right, we got a favorable, do we have a second?
Yes.
Okay, okay, it's been moved and seconded. Senator Reedy?
Just questioning this, this is like a pretty technical bill to bring up here right at the very end. I know we're running short of time, but it's a lot, am I to understand this is a fund, does the fund already exist? Or are we establishing a new fund?
Anything like this has been the budget and tax to see if it's doable from their
Okay,
perspective.
okay, but is it new or?
The bill establishes a new fund. The bill itself does not include a specific mandated appropriation. The fiscal note is based on an estimate
Okay.
of an amount that would be reasonable to enact the bill as
Okay.
described.
Okay, and then just one more question. So do I understand this is loans going to, I know there's a Fresh Start program, which I'm all for, is also saying you're gonna give loans to people who maybe have just made it out of prison and are starting a business, or?
No.
So individuals who are participating in one of the entrepreneurship programs that are able to apply for and receive grants under the bill can then be certified by those grant recipient entities to apply for and then eventually receive a loan. There are qualifications in the bill about what would be required to be submitted in the application. For example, things like needing to have a business plan and understanding of the
I hope
community
that
in
would
which
be
the
part of
business
the
would be
requirement, yeah.
located and things like that. So the bill is fairly prescriptive in that sense, and then ultimately, both of the programs within the Department of Labor and Commerce are required to adopt regulations that would flesh out those processes.
And the only other question, and I'll stop, I promise. It said even if you're not all the way out of jail, but you're on work release, or?
The language that the bill uses, and I can point you to it, is on what would be page 9, so after page 8 of 9 is marked in the reprint. Said covered individual means an individual who has been convicted of a criminal offense and completed a term of imprisonment in federal prison or state or local correctional facility, or is approved for release by a correctional facility for the purpose of participating in a training program. I'm not particularly familiar with
Okay.
correctional services, but there may be opportunities for people to be released in order to participate in some kind of training or education program.
And we're secondary on this.
I believe primary. Budget and tax is secondary.
I must have been out
Yeah.
for this hearing.
They've looked at it as a predicate to it being on the voting list in
I don't know,
finance.
guys. I don't know.
Okay, Senator Hayes.
To part of Senator Reedy's concern, currently, it used to be the Governor's Office of Children and Families. It used to be a very simple name. Now it's a very convoluted name, children, youth, families.
Talk into the mic.
Right, I forget the name of the office. It used to be the Governor's Office of Children, Youth, and Families. Now they call it something like Governor's Office, Children, Family, Blue Dogs, Red Dogs. I don't know what the name of it is. But whatever this office is, each year they prioritize grants to various organizations. In the last couple of years, they've prioritized grant funding for organizations that provide opportunities for workforce development for returning citizens to help with recidivism. I think the thing that I like about this bill, as opposed to a system where we're only incentivizing opportunities to work for somebody else, this incentivizes an opportunity to be an entrepreneur and to own your own business. And so there's a former colleague of ours who will remain nameless, who oftentimes in a very public setting explained that years later she had ran into an individual who was in prison. She spoke to one of his classes while he was in prison, and he thanked her because, upon exiting, he now owned like 3 dry cleaning services and stuff like that. I think oftentimes it's hard as, someone who's coming out of prison to get employment. But if we have opportunities where people could start their own business and do well and provide other opportunities, it's a good thing. And so I like to move favorable on this bill. Oh, I'm sorry, I second.
So, all right, we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I do think it's a good idea, because very often, people are afraid to take a chance on a returning citizen. And if they, under the Department of Labor and Commerce, can do what they need to start a business and to run it well, they make a contribution to society. All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, it looks like all but one. Did your hand up?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so that's 10-1.
Who's
Reedy is the only one not on. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, can I just wait?
Yeah.
So when Senator Reedy takes the bill, the land bill on the local, no, wait, on the local health officer, because we took his amendment and struck all, I had somebody watch in our voting session, lawyer friend or some, just so when you'll be prepared for some, because we took out all the reasons, when you go on appeal to Office of Administrative Hearings, that could be a problem since we'll have no record of why the person was discharged, so it might be a problem. Okay, well, I'm throwing it out there because you will be floor leader, huh?
To make the decisions on whether an amendment is favorable, friendly or not.
That's it, right?
Well, not if it was specifically rejected in the committee, then no, but then there's,
That's kind of in play right now? On another bill?
which bill are you talking about?